Rebuilding the Immortal Cultivation family. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 526 Prelude. After making up his mind, Li Zhirui went to Shenli Mountain in person, intending to use this as a token of surrender, and take Xianluo sect to Shenli Mountain. Although he felt a little sorry for the Li family, he had no other choice for his life. Moreover, in a sense, it was the Li family that abandoned Xianluo sect first, and Li Zhirui did this just to protect himself. The head of Xianluo sect came to visit. The head of Shenli Mountain thought about it and remembered who he was. Isn't this a vassal force of the Li family? What is he doing here? The disciple who came to report said. He said he has something very important to tell the sect. The head raised his eyebrows slightly and said, in that case, let him in. Li Zhirui greets the senior. Obviously, they are both Jinden, but Li Zhirui lowered his generation and greeted him as a junior. His thoughts were obvious. I heard that you have something very important. From this action, the head saw Li Zhirui's thoughts, but did not expose him, but asked directly. Li Zhirui originally thought that the other party would ask him why he came to Shenli Mountain, so he could take the opportunity to show that he had abandoned the dark and joined the light, but the other party asked another question. But what could he do? He could only answer obediently. All the cultivators of the Li family have withdrawn from Hongluo state, and the other states should be the same. The head of the sect changed his face slightly and said, how could the Li family move so quickly? You know, he just received the message brought back by Uncle Yanli a day ago, asking them to be prepared and wait for him to come back to attack the Li family. It has not been 12 hours since that person returned to Shenli Mountain. And Li Zhirui and others only went back yesterday. Either the Li family is incredibly efficient and packed up all the spiritual objects overnight, or the Li family has other ways of contacting them and sent the news back without their knowledge. What they thought was a sure thing had a little accident before it even started. If Li Zhirui hadn't come to tell them, I'm afraid they would be kept in the dark now. This is indeed very important news. You have done a good job. The sect will not treat those who have made contributions unfairly. As he said this, the head of the sect suddenly showed a strange smile on his face, and said, now there is a task for you. You take this question and enter the Li family's Banyan Island to destroy the Li family's island protection formation from the inside. Li Zhirui's expression froze instantly. This is completely looking for death. Whether he succeeds or not, it's a dead end. Li Zhirui's heart suddenly surged with regret. If he had known it would be like this, he should not have come here in person. He originally thought that he would be treated with favor, but the result was this. But Xianluo sect still needs me to sit in charge. Li Zhirui wanted to struggle. Don't worry, we will specially send a Jinden elder to Xianluo sect to suppress the scoundrels. Li Zhirui showed a very reluctant smile on his face and said, thank you, senior. Looking at Li Zhirui who was walking out with difficulty, the head of the sect didn't care whether he could complete the task he had assigned. After all, what else can't this kind of person who betrays his benefactor in order to survive do? Just as he expected. After Li Zhirui left Shenli Mountain, he did not go to Banyan Island or return to Xianluo sect. He planned to leave the two families' sphere of influence directly. Should we attack now, or wait for Uncle Yanli to come back before attacking the Li family? The head of the sect hurriedly convened a meeting of elders to discuss the current situation. If we start a war now, the disadvantage is that Shenli Mountain is not fully prepared, and Yanli and dozens of Jinden monks have not returned, which is a very powerful fighting force. The advantage is that the Li family is also in a hurry and not fully prepared. If we choose to wait for Yanli and them to come back before taking action, then the advantages and disadvantages will be completely opposite. Everyone has their own opinions and views, and the whole hall has become noisy. It was not until another Yuanying's Henjin King Li appeared that everyone calmed down. Get ready, I will lead the attack on the Li family of Banyan Island tomorrow. King Li didn't waste any words and decided the matter directly. His idea was that the Li family was not fully prepared now, and if they attacked suddenly, there might be some unexpected surprises. Even if there is no, the two sides will be deadlocked in the end, and Yunlei and others will be back soon by then, just in time to connect. However, Qinglei did not explain why he did this, but just asked everyone to go down and prepare, so as not to miss the gathering tomorrow, on Banyan Island. Shenlai Mountain should have also noticed the family's movements. In a few days, they should take action, Li Zhirui guessed. But now the secret realm has not been closed, Yunlei should not have returned, and the pressure on the family will be less, Li Zhirui added, but we can't be careless. After all, even if Yunlei is not here, their strength is still stronger than ours. Are there any clan members who haven't returned yet? How are the various resources prepared? They have all returned, and most of the family's inventory has been mobilized. There are still a lot of resources in reserve. After understanding the current preparations of the family, Li Zhirui's hanging heart finally fell back a little. After discussing how to deal with the offensive of Shenlai Mountain, they left to prepare. Zhirui, will Shenlai Mountain really take action? This was the first time Li Zhirui met Li Shiking after he came back. Yesterday, he locked himself in the alchemy room all day, refining various precious elixirs. I'm not sure, but it's very likely, and he didn't dare to gamble on such things. Li Shiking sighed. He certainly understood Li Zhirui's concerns, but he felt distressed when he thought of the spiritual lands abandoned by the family, and the spiritual objects that were about to mature, but now had to be pulled out in advance. If it really comes to a critical moment, you will take Zhaixun, Chengru and others out of the secret passage. Do you understand? Li Shilian said earnestly. There is a future only if there are people. As long as you are still alive, the Li family will rise again one day. The secret passage in the sea that had been traded privately with the Nanaya Chamber of Commerce was not closed, and the only people who knew about it were still the three of them, so there was no need to worry about being exposed. That's right, Li Shiking also echoed. This will never happen, don't worry, Li Zhirui said with confidence. If Zhang Fengwu is on Wangxin Island at this time, Li Zhirui would be even more confident. After all, she was the one who created this island protection formation, and she was the one who was most familiar with the Starlight Mountain and River formation. Besides her, there was no other third-level formation master in the family. Do your best, if possible. Who would be willing to give up the territory that they had managed for hundreds of years? Who would be willing to give up so many clansmen? Chapter 527 Uneasy. Qinglian Province. Fellow Taoist Zhang, are you feeling unwell? I noticed that you haven't looked very well these past few days, a giant and cultivator from the same team asked with concern. Zhang Fengwu didn't know what was going on. Since a few days ago, she had been feeling a strong sense of uneasiness in her heart, which made her restless and unable to carry out her daily practice. These days, she would take out the life cards of Li Zhirui, Li Chengsheng and Li Changshuo from time to time, but they were all fine. Was it that the danger had not yet occurred, or would her uneasiness come true on her? But there was no evidence, so Zhang Fengwu couldn't tell her teammates. After all, as long as they could successfully complete the next thing they were going to do, everyone would get a lot of resources. If her inspiration was wrong and caused everyone to miss this opportunity, then she would be guilty. I'm fine. I may have been a little tired these days, so I don't look very good, Zhang Fengwu responded in a low voice. The team finally found the trace of a group of demon cultivators. We can't let them delay because of me. Well, take care of yourself and don't work too hard. After this mission is completed, we will give everyone enough time to rest. Okay, Zhang Fengwu responded, but after thinking about it, she still told the Captain Zi Changhong about her uneasiness in private. I know, I will have people pay more attention. As a disciple of a major force, Zi Changhong knew that the sudden impulse of the cultivators was mostly some kind of omen or warning, and the higher the cultivation level, the greater the possibility. Therefore, he did not dare to ignore Zhang Fengwu's feelings. Even if it turned out to be a false alarm later, it was better than if it really happened and they were unprepared. Are all the people here? Qinglei stood in the air and asked in a deep voice. The head of the sect beside him quickly replied, Golden Core Elder has sent out 39 people, 240 foundation building disciples, and 1,200 key training disciples. They are all here. Have you arranged to contact Brother Yanlai's disciples? He set out yesterday. In that case, let's go too. With King Lai's order, dozens of huge spirit ships took off at the same time. They were so large that they completely blocked the sunlight below. The speed of the spirit ships was not fast, and they would deliberately take detours to the territories of some unruly vassal forces, one to intimidate them, and the other to recruit some cultivators. When the fleet passed a fairy city, the cultivators who didn't know what was going on at first screamed and fled. It was not until they left completely that everyone calmed down. Those spirit ships just now were flying the logo of Shenlai Mountain, right? What is Shenli Mountain trying to do with such a big move? Judging from the situation, isn't it going to destroy a certain force? How could an ordinary force be worthy of their making such a big fuss? I think they might be planning to retake Taiksa province. If that's the case, why isn't Shenli Mountain recruiting independent cultivators? How could they possibly retake Taiksa province by themselves? And the direction they left was the east. The cultivators talked a lot, and after knowing that they were safe, they became very curious. Eastern, a cultivator exclaimed, the Li family. Shenli Mountain is going to attack the Li family. Why? The Li family is indeed not as strong as Shenli Mountain, but at least there is a Yuaning's engine sitting in charge. If he gets ruthless, even if Shenli Mountain wins, the losses will be very heavy, right? Could it be that this Henjin was suddenly seriously injured or even died? Shenli Mountain heard the news and planned to take advantage of the opportunity. No wonder. I heard before that the Li family's clansmen suddenly withdrew to Wangxin Island. So that's the case. It seems that they had anticipated Shenli Mountain's intentions a long time ago, retreating without a fight. It seems that the Li family does not have much confidence in this battle. Most of the casual cultivators were in a mood to watch the fun. After all, the struggle between the two major forces was too far away from them and had nothing to do with them. What a pity. If the Li family is destroyed, it will be impossible to buy those inexpensive and high-quality elixirs in the future. Ding ding ding. At the moment when the fleet of Shenli Mountain entered the territory of the Li family, a series of low bells rang out and spread outward. The Li family arranged an old man with a nearly long life in each of the several sacred mountains closest to the territory of Shenli Mountain. Once the trace of Shenli Mountain was found, they would ring the 100 miles unified bell. Although the family made various promises and would give their descendants many benefits, they still felt sorry for these old people. After all, they had paid a lot for the development of the family before, but before they died, they had to do such a life-threatening thing. Humph. Resolute, Qing Lei used his spiritual sense to scan the sacred mountain where the bell rang, and saw only the body of an old man who had just lost his breath. He couldn't help but snorted coldly. If he fell into his hands, Qing Lei would never let anyone die easily without taking something out of his mouth. Since it has been discovered, let's speed up. Yes, the leading spiritual ship began to speed up, and dozens of spiritual ships behind hurried to catch up. Alice, a faint sigh came from the last few spiritual ships. They were all monks from various vassal forces of Shenli Mountain. They were forcibly recruited when the fleet passed by, and they were destined to become the most miserable cannon fodder in this war. No matter who wins or loses, most of them will not have a good ending. But in comparison, they still hope that Shenli Mountain can win. After all, even if they die, the credit will fall to their forces. But if the Li family wins, they and the forces behind them will not escape the subsequent reckoning. But in a moment, the dull bell sounded to Wangxin Island, waking up many of the lucky clansmen. Then a curtain of spiritual light quickly rose, covering the core part of the island. After hearing the bell, the secular clansmen scattered all over the island were terrified and hurriedly hid underground. Everyone prayed sincerely that the family would not be in trouble. Otherwise, even if they would not be slaughtered, they would no longer live the good life they have now, and they might be slaves for generations. It was not until several generations later, when their descendants no longer remembered their bloodline origins, that they could escape from slavery and become cultivators again. Fortunately, I listened to Zhirui, otherwise the consequences would be disastrous. Li Shiqing said with a look of relief. Li Zhirui's expression was still serious. He shook his head and turned to Li Zufang and asked, have you arranged for the independent cultivators in Hongshanfang City? Many of these independent cultivators must be spies of Shenli Mountain. It is not safe for them to stay in Wangxin Island, so Li Zhirui plans to drive them all out. Chapter 528, War. Even though those casual cultivators were very dissatisfied and had all kinds of complaints, for the sake of safety, Li Zhirui specially asked Li Zhixuan, Li Shengru and others to go to the Redwood Market. If there are casual cultivators who are not cooperative, they will directly take action to kill the chicken to scare the monkey. All the people have been driven out, Li Zufang replied. Li Zhirui nodded lightly, turned to all the clansmen, and said loudly, this battle is crucial. It is related to whether the family can continue. Dear clansmen, whether your relatives and friends can survive depends on your performance. So I hope everyone can do their best to deal with the next war. The gap in strength between the two sides is too large, and inspiring words may not have a very good effect. On the contrary, Telling the cruel ending is more likely to rouse everyone's resistance. The so-called sad army will win, this is the truth. As long as everyone can hold on and make it impossible for Shenli Mountain to end the war in a short time, then we will win. Li Zhirui also gave everyone a little hope. And this is not his fabrication. Before leaving the secret realm, Li Zhirui secretly discussed one thing with King Xuanyang, Tu Yuanying. If the Li family can hold back Yanli and King Li, Tu Yuanying, they will lead people to attack Shenli Mountain. But if they can't do it, they will just stand by and watch. Of course, Li Zhirui didn't completely trust these two people. So he privately contacted the head of the Nanya Chamber of Commerce. If they helped, Li Zhirui was willing to sell the 4th level treasure pill to the Nanya Chamber of Commerce at cost price, or even without the processing fee of a spirit stone, for a period of 150 years. In other words, Li Zhirui would work for the Nanya Chamber of Commerce for 150 years. Even if he didn't help in the end, Li Zhirui would refine the 4th level treasure pill for the Nanya Chamber of Commerce for 10 years under this condition, and in the next 30 years, he would supply the treasure pill at a very favorable price. In addition, he also painted a big pie for the Nanya Chamber of Commerce. In the future, the territory occupied by the Li family, in addition to the shops opened by themselves, will only allow the Nanya Chamber of Commerce to settle in, and refuse any other chambers of commerce. Of course, shops opened by individuals or small forces are not included. Faced with such generous conditions, Li Zhirui believes that the Nanya Chamber of Commerce has no reason to refuse. And this is indeed the case. After hearing the conditions offered by Li Zhirui, the headquarters of the Nanya Chamber of Commerce agreed without hesitation and arranged 3 Yuanying to make a special trip. But they will only support the Li family and will not help the Li family counterattack Shenli Mountain. As for why they don't contact the closer Zhuanfa Pavilion? Because the Nanya Chamber of Commerce is more likely to agree, and the conditions will not be too harsh. After all, the market of Shenli Mountain is not accessible to the Nanya Chamber of Commerce. But it is the traditional business scope of Zhuanfa Pavilion. However, these are external forces. Li Zhirui deeply understands the truth. If you rely on the mountain will fall, and if you rely on people, people will run away. Only when you are strong, you can be confident. Brother Jiu. They are coming. Li Zhirui, who was deep in thought, suddenly woke up and flew into the air, trying to find out the other party's strength. Yunlei is not here. Li Zhirui only sensed the breath of a Yuanying cultivator, which was good news, but Qinglei had also broken through the middle stage of Yuanying. And except for the key training cultivators, the strength of the Li family in other realms is far inferior to Shenlishan. The fleet was getting closer and closer. Many clansmen took a breath of cold air when they saw such a large fleet. They were obviously fighting at home, but their momentum was suppressed by the opponent. Li Zhirui stared at the front with a grim face, estimating the distance between the opponent and the formation. Go. Everyone, activate the attack talismans in your hands with all your strength. With Li Zhirui's order, the fleet, which had not yet stopped, was attacked by a wave of sky-wide attacks, as if endless spells were smashing towards them. The spiritual light was gorgeous and colorful, but full of deadly murderous intent. How many disciples died? Is the spiritual ship seriously damaged? Qinglei asked with an ugly face. Even though the spirit ship's defense offset many attacks, many cultivators still died under this torrent of magic, especially those low-level cultivators. The giant elders were not injured, but the casualties of low-level disciples were at least 100. The head of the sect counted the number of people at the first time and said with some panic. And the number he mentioned did not include those vassal forces, otherwise the number would be even greater. As for the spirit ships, most of them are seriously damaged, and only a few are intact. After hearing this, Qinglei laughed in anger, gritting his teeth and said, Good, good, good. What a great Li family. What a great Li Zhirui. I underestimated you at the beginning. This day next year will be your death anniversary. As agreed before, each of us will deal with enemies of the same realm as ourselves. Li Zhirui shouted, as long as we persist, we will be the only ones who will win in the end. Kill. Everyone, attack the formation with all your strength. After breaking the formation, kill all the Li family monks, and all the spiritual objects you get will belong to you. As soon as these words came out, all the disciples of Shenli Mountain got rid of their just fear in an instant, and each of them used their most powerful means, shouting and killing towards the Banyan Island below. But the Li family monks were not vegetarians either. They relied on the island protection formation and did not need to defend at all. They took out their most powerful moves and just attacked the enemy. Li Zhirui, dare you come out and fight? Qinglei did not attack the island protection formation like other disciples, but went directly to Li Zhirui. Because he knew clearly that Li Zhirui was the foundation of the Li family. As long as he could kill him, the remaining Li family cultivators would be nothing but a bunch of broken pieces, not worth mentioning. Why not? Li Zhirui was also worried that Qinglei would attack the formation, because even if he blocked the attack sometimes, the energy impact of the explosion would be a big burden for the formation. Zhirui, you, be careful. Li Shiqing wanted to say something, but only a few words remained when the words came to his lips. Second grandfather, don't worry, he is only one small realm higher than me. The gap is not that big, what's more, he is now at the limit of the early stage of the nascent soul, and the gap between the two sides is further narrowed. Li Zhirui flew out of the formation and started fighting with Qinglei alone in the sky. As long as you are willing to hand over a wisp of soul, I will spare your life and retreat with my disciples. Qinglei looked confident, as if he had Li Zhirui in his hands. How? Li Zhirui sneered, and said, Dao Qinglei is as confident as ever, but I don't know how much of your confidence can be reflected in combat, killing you. That's enough. As soon as the words fell, a green thunder rushed towards Li Zhirui with great momentum. Chapter 529, Everyone Hurts. Thunder broke through the air, and the huge energy seemed to be able to tear everything apart. Li Zhirui slowly summoned dark clouds, and for a moment, heavy rain covered the area for several miles. The water vapor filled the air and turned into water shields and black ice to block the attack. Dao Yao's strength has not changed much after the breakthrough. Li Zhirui looked very relaxed and comfortable, but in fact, he paid nearly 10% of his mana for this. If he was not an alchemist with sufficient elixirs to replenish his mana, Li Zhirui would not have the confidence to do so. But the effect looked good, at least it scared Qinglei, making him think that Li Zhirui's strength was not much different from his. Sure enough. Senior brother Yanli is right, we can't let it go any longer. Qinglei's expression was a little sullen, and he no longer held back. He encouraged the mana in his body and attacked Li Zhirui with all his strength. Roar. The thunders carried a majestic power, as if they could wipe out everything in the world. Even in the sky, the low-level monk still felt the terrifying pressure and roared at Li Zhirui. Li Zhirui's face did not change, but his eyes became very solemn. He could withstand this attack, but the price to pay was too high. He did not dare to continue to show off his strength. He hurriedly performed the water and wood escape technique, which was not yet perfected, and left the original place several miles away in an instant. What kind of escape technique is this? Qinglei frowned. The formula looks similar to the water escape technique, but it is not exactly the same, and it is more convenient to perform and faster. It is impolite not to return the favor. Taoist friend, be careful. The heavy rain suddenly changed, and a faint murderous intent spread in the rain. The cold air penetrated everywhere. Even if Qinglei performed a defensive spell, he was still corroded by the cold air, like an ulcer attached to the bone, and merged into the blood and spiritual energy. When the cold air invaded, Qinglei noticed it at the first moment and controlled his magic power to remove the cold air. But he didn't expect that the cold air was much more difficult to solve than he imagined, and it was still increasing. After a moment, Qinglei keenly sensed his movements, which were much slower than before. If this continues, it won't be long before he becomes a living dead. At that time, life or death depends on Li Zhirui's thoughts. What kind of evil magic is this? Qinglei, who claims to be knowledgeable, can't help but follow this magic. Of course, Qinglei can't recognize this magic, because this is what Li Zhirui learned from the inheritance jade slips of Mingdao sect, and it is called Huan Yaohan. Perhaps it shouldn't be called a magic, it's more appropriate to call it witchcraft. Witchcraft that has been lost for countless years. Mingdao sect was a top force that dominated one side back then, but even so, only this witchcraft has been passed down. And magic needs mana as support, but witchcraft is not like this. Mana is just an introduction, and the root lies in the spiritual objects sacrificed. In order to obtain the powerful netherworld cold air, Li Zhirui had previously offered spiritual objects, at least of the third grade, and in large quantities. If converted into spiritual stones, there would be at least millions of them. As time went by, Qinglei's face gradually became dark blue and stiff. And his eyebrows even had some white frost on them. His reaction became much slower. Qinglei, who is obviously more powerful, was now being suppressed by Li Zhirui and was in a state of embarrassment. If this continues, I'm afraid I will die in Li Zhirui's hands. Qing Lei's heart was beating wildly, knowing clearly that his attack this time had failed, and that he had lost miserably and completely. Retreat, although his pride did not allow him to retreat, and Qing Lei knew clearly how much of a blow retreat would bring to his own disciples. In the face of life-threatening danger, everything else was just a vain thing. After hearing Qing Lei's words, the Shenlai mountain disciples below were stunned in their place, their faces full of disbelief. Why retreat? Could it be that Master Qing Lei is no match for the true lord of the Li family? Seeing this, the Li family cultivators in the formation would naturally not miss the great opportunity to weaken the opponent's strength, and launched a fatal attack on them without hesitation. In just a few breaths, hundreds of Shenlai mountain disciples died. Retreat, Qing Lei roared, and used all his strength to repel the aggressive Li Zhirui. He did not dare to delay any longer and turned into a spiritual light and escaped. Those low-level cultivators might not be able to see the spiritual light, but those giant and elders saw it clearly. For a moment, their faces changed drastically. They could not believe that Master Qing Lei actually escaped in such a mess. Go! It was the head of the sect who reacted in time and shouted loudly, "Everyone, retreat to the spirit ship." The morale of the Shenlai mountain army, which was originally aggressive, plummeted in an instant. All the disciples rushed to escape to the spirit ship, fearing that if they were a little slower, they would become a corpse. Oh, we won, the Li family monks below shouted loudly and excitedly. Only Li Shiqing and Li Zhixun, who knew the truth, looked at Li Zhirui standing in the air with concern. Puff, Li Zhirui did not pursue the victory, but turned back to Banyan Island and escaped into the cave as soon as possible. He suddenly spit out a mouthful of blood and his face was terribly pale. He was not injured in the previous battle, but now he looked half dead. The reason is that the sacrifices required for witchcraft, in addition to spiritual objects, also include the caster's own blood and ki, and even luck. And this is also the fundamental reason why powerful and mysterious witchcraft will be lost. The price is too high. According to the inheritance jade slip, there are many ancient wizards who can catch the sun and the moon, move mountains and fill the sea, but they often cannot live forever, and some of them even have a shorter lifespan than mortals. Li Zhirui lay on the mat for a long time before he felt a little bit of strength. He forced himself to take out the healing elixir and swallowed it, silently waiting for the effect of the medicine to take effect. Zhu Fen, we have only achieved a temporary victory now. You should organize the tribesmen now and let them recover as soon as possible. Go to the warehouse to get the missing talismans and elixirs. If there are not enough, arrange for the tribesmen to refine them, Li Shiqing said with a serious face. The war is not over. This is just the beginning. Li Zhufen, who was originally happy, disappeared in an instant, nodded solemnly, and said, "You are right. I will arrange it, don't worry, thank you for your hard work," Li Shiqing said with a tired face. He didn't have much life to begin with. After a fierce battle, he was extremely tired both physically and mentally. Have a good rest. Li Zhufang saw this and immediately said goodbye. After he left, Li Shiqing, despite his tiredness, looked at the siblings Li Chengsheng and Li Changshuo and asked, "Is Zhirui okay?" As soon as father went back, he locked himself in the room and just told us not to worry about him. The brother and sister's faces were full of worry. Chapter 530, Fight Again. Okay, I got it. Don't worry. Zhirui just consumed too much energy. It's nothing. As he spoke, a trace of worry flashed in Li Shiqing's eyes. How could Li Shiqing, who had read the inheritance jade slips and even studied the witchcraft of summoning Yaohun, believe what Li Zhirui said? He just said that to let the two not worry. You should go back and recuperate. It won't be long before the second round of war breaks out. Okay, then we won't bother you. The two bowed and left. Brother, do you think what the second grandfather said is true? Compared with the slightly naive Li Changshuo, Li Chengsheng noticed more. Li Chengsheng's expression froze, and he said, "Of course, you know your father's strength, how could he be injured? That makes sense." Li Changshuo immediately put the matter behind him, and said in a brisk tone, "Then let's go back and prepare for the next battle, okay?" Cough. Li Zhirui just moved his body slightly, and couldn't help coughing, and said weakly, "It's worthy of being a witchcraft, the power is amazing, and the price is unbearable." When the blood in his body was deficient, Li Zhirui obviously felt that his body had aged a lot. In other words, his lifespan was reduced by a few years. You know, The witchcraft of summoning the cold is not very powerful, and the grade is not very high. If it is replaced with a top witchcraft such as catching the sun and the moon, Li Zhirui estimates that if he performs it once, it will probably consume decades of life. Fortunately, Li Zhirui paid such a high price, and it was worth it. Forcing Shanli Mountain to retreat greatly dampened their morale, and at the same time, King Li's body was filled with netherworld cold air, and it was impossible for him to take action in a short period of time, because if the mana was accelerated, it would accelerate the erosion of the cold air. As long as King Li didn't want to die, he couldn't take action. In other words, the monks of Shanli Mountain at this time did not have the protection of Yuanying's engine. If Li Zhirui took action at this time, he could definitely kill a large number of monks easily. But unfortunately, Li Zhirui's current situation was not very convenient for him to take action, so he could only miss the opportunity in vain. And if Li Zhirui guessed correctly, Shanli Mountain had sent someone to tell Yan Li, and it might not take long for him to arrive. At that time, Li Zhirui had to fight again, so he had to hurry up to treat his injuries and ensure that he could exert his strongest strength. What did you say? Yan Li looked at the disciple who had just arrived from the mountain gate in front of him, and asked with a heavy face. The man told all he had heard, and said, "Before I left, I heard that Master Qing Lei was going to attack the Li family the next day." Not good. Yun Lei heard this and instantly understood the source of his uneasiness. He was not worried about Qing Lei's safety. After all, Li Zhirui's realm was slightly inferior, and his strength might be similar, but the lives of many disciples might not be saved. I want to rush back to the sect as soon as possible. You wait here for other disciples. Seeing Yun Lei's serious face, the disciple did not dare to have any other opinions and nodded in agreement. Yun Lei did not even wait for a quarter of an hour, and turned directly into rainbow light and flew towards Banyan Island. Yun Lei left alone. Could it be that the Li family won? Otherwise, why would he be so panicked? It's possible. What do you think of Li Zhirui's proposal? Do you want to take action? Shui Qing was still a little worried. After all, once they took action, it would mean that they and Shanli Mountain would never stop fighting. Don't worry, wait a little longer. The battle has just started, and it is still hard to predict who will win or lose. There is no need to be so anxious. Shui Qing thought about it and said, then wait a little longer. Yun Lei, who was rushing to the road, arrived near Banyan Island in just a few hours. What came into view was a strange scene. Dozens of spirit ships were hovering in the sky, and the islands below were full of monks, which seemed very busy and prosperous. Junior brother, are you okay? Soon, Yun Lei saw Qing Lei. When he saw him for the first time, he even thought that Qing Lei was infected by zombies. Now Qing Lei's whole appearance has changed. His whole body is stiff and cold. If it weren't for his eyes, he would really think that he was a zombie. It's okay, senior brother. Don't worry, I am suppressing the coldness in my body, but unfortunately, I can't do it again in a short time. Qing Lei stuttered for a while before he finished speaking. Qing Lei now knows the coldness in his body and is afraid of Yang Qi. As long as there is enough Yang Qi, he can soon become a normal person. Brother, when you fight with Li Zhirui, you must be careful and apply multiple layers of defense. This spell is very strange. It can penetrate the defensive aura, and it is silent. I don't even know when he started. I know. Yun Lei's face became more solemn. Don't worry, I will avenge you. The other Yuanying's engine of Shanli Mountain is here. The only one who can deal with him is Ancestors Heru. The previous victory gave the Li family cultivators great confidence, and they were completely different from the panic when they first heard about the war. Don't worry, I have sent someone to invite him, Li Zufang said. At the same time, Li Zhirui, who received an urgent message, woke up from his wounds. Alice. The time is too short. Yun Lei came in a hurry today, and his mana was too much. After a night's rest, I am afraid he will start tomorrow. And this is only 3 days after the end of the last war. Li Zhirui's injuries have not healed. The next morning, Yun Lei led a group of disciples to attack Banyan Island again. But compared with the previous attack, they obviously restrained themselves a lot this time, in order to avoid any danger, and they didn't even have the mana to escape. The alarm sounded continuously, and the Li family monks quickly stood in their positions and started this round of attack. Yun Lei didn't care about the struggle between these low-level monks, and only focused all his attention on dealing with Li Zhirui. Fellow Taoist, you have such a trick that you forced junior brother Qing Lei to have no way to retreat and can only retreat and escape. Li Zhirui, who had just stood still, did not comment on this, and said, "Let me see if your strength is the same as that of fellow Taoist Qing Lei, and is vulnerable." Li Zhirui took the initiative to act, and the water vapor that filled the sky and the earth quickly gathered under his control. In an instant, it formed a winding river, raising waves and attacking Yunlei. Boom! Yunlei's magic formula continued, and thunders fell from the sky, easily smashing the huge waves. Fellow Taoist's strength is just like this. Chapter 531 Bitterness. Thunder roared, and it kept falling, like a sea of thunder, drowning Li Zhirui. It seemed that Li Zhirui was barely resisting the attack, his face was pale, and he felt that he was about to collapse. Sure enough, junior brother Qing Lei was injured. It should be caused by some special secret method that was harmful to himself. Yunlei had always been skeptical about this matter. Even if Li Zhirui broke through the middle stage of the nascent soul, it was impossible for Qing Lei to be injured like that, not to mention that he had not broken through. Moreover, when Qing Lei retreated to recuperate, it was a good situation for the Li family, but Li Zhirui did not make any other moves. There was only one possibility, that Li Zhirui could not do it. After fighting today, Yunlei became more and more certain of his guess. Hand over the method to solve the cold air, and offer a wisp of soul, and I will forgive you. Yunlei looked down at Li Zhirui, who was struggling in the sea of thunder, and said in a condescending tone, "Dao Yao's eyesight is really poor. You can't even distinguish a magical clone." Li Zhirui's voice sounded faintly from behind Yunlei, followed by two intertwined dragons, exuding a terrifying sharp aura, flying towards Yunlei at the speed of thunder. Crack! The dragons closed together, carrying the power to cut off everything, aiming at Yunlei. Yunlei's face changed slightly, and the spell changed rapidly. Thunder fell beside him, forming a violent and jumping thunderball to protect him. Then he quickly performed the escape method and left this dangerous place. What a pity! Although he said so, Li Zhirui did not show a trace of pity. After all, if a Yuanying cultivator was killed so easily, how could he have such a high status? "I want to see how long you can hold on with your injured body," Yunlei said angrily. Li Zhirui smiled and said nothing when he heard this. His injuries were not as serious as the other party imagined, and it was not a problem to entangle for a few days. If they delay desperately without regard for the consequences, they can hold on until the 3 Yuanying's engines sent by the Nanya Chamber of Commerce arrive. Of course, if they really do this, the consequences will be more serious, and it will take several years just to recover from the injury. Kill! A cold, murderous female voice suddenly sounded. It was Li Zhirui, who rushed out of the formation with a sword and slashed at the cultivator in front of him. Ling Xiao's sword energy soared into the sky, and the sword intent burst out. In a trance, it seemed as if he saw a sea of blood and corpses. The cultivators with weak wills did not dare to look directly at it, otherwise they would most likely be infected by the huge murderous aura and lose their minds. After slashing out with his sword, Li Zhirui suddenly felt that his body became much more relaxed. It's really amazing. That sword intent, even I feel terrified when I see it, not to mention that it actually broke through in the battle. Yunlei retracted his envious and admiring eyes and sighed sincerely. But the more this happened, the more determined Yunlei was to destroy the Li family. If the Li family continues to develop at this speed, it is likely that within a few decades, Shenli Mountain will face a more terrifying hostile force. By then, the price paid to destroy the Li family will definitely be several times more than today. Li Zhirui did not expect Li Zhirui to be so bold as to leave the island protection formation and fight with several giant cultivators. However, it was also because of this that she was able to break through in the face of huge pressure. Go back and consolidate your cultivation first. Before Li Zhirui could react, Li Zhirui sent her back to the formation. Perhaps stimulated by Li Zhirui's breakthrough, Yunlei became much more radical, and he unleashed powerful thunderbolts. Li Zhirui controlled a dragon to entangle with it while using the escape method to avoid the attack. He looked quite embarrassed, but he was not actually injured. And the current situation is what Li Zhirui expected, because he can delay time to the greatest extent. The battle between the two lasted for several days, and both sides were very tired, whether it was their mind or their body, they consumed a lot. But no matter who it is, no one wants to give in. But to be honest, Li Zhirui's condition is worse. After all, his previous injuries have not been completely healed. Both sides are very clear about this. Li Zhirui is struggling to hold on, waiting for the arrival of the Yuanying's engine of the Nanaya Chamber of Commerce, or Shuking and Yahe to attack Shenlai Mountain. Yunlai is waiting for the opportunity, waiting for Li Zhirui to have problems, and the opportunity to kill him with one blow. If this goes on, Brother Jia, you won't be able to hold on for much longer, Li Zhixuan, who barely consolidated his realm, said with worry in his eyes. Now most of the cultivators on both sides are resting. After all, their realm is low, and they don't have the huge mana of the Yuanying cultivator. Even if they take elixirs, they can't hold on for too long. We can't help at all now. Doing our job well and not distracting Zhirui is the greatest help and support to him, Li Shiking on the side said weakly. It would be great if we could give the family a few more decades. Unfortunately, the cultivators of Shenlai Mountain are not fools. Knowing the threat from the Li family, they would certainly try their best to eliminate them in advance. At this moment, a huge variable appeared on the battlefield in the sky. Qinglei is coming. How is this possible? As a caster, Li Zhirui knows the power of summoning the nether cold most clearly. Although the solution is not difficult, as long as there is a lot of yang energy, it stands to reason that the nether cold air applied to Qinglei's body, even with sufficient yang energy, can at least delay Qinglei for more than 10 days. But now, only 7 or 8 days have passed, which is about half of the time. After Li Zhirui calmed down and observed Qinglei carefully, he immediately understood what was going on. Alice, Li Zhirui sighed helplessly, his face full of bitterness, and said, "Fellow Taoist, you actually disregard your own path and want to destroy my Li family. The netherworld cold air in Qinglei's body has not been completely cleared, and even more than half of it remains. He is now enduring the erosion of the cold air and has to help Yunlei. Once the spell is used, the cold air in the body will flow with a magic power, and accelerate the speed of erosion of the meridians and flesh. If the cold air penetrates into the bone marrow and causes an indelible impact, then Qinglei's path will not make any progress. Junior brother. What are you doing? Go back quickly. I'm here, it won't take long to defeat him," Yunlei said anxiously. Even when facing the injured Li Zhirui, Yunlei did not have the confidence to kill him. "But senior brother, if we can't kill Li Zhirui, then what is the significance of our action this time?" Qinglei said faintly. "The Li family has grown to this level relying on Li Zhirui. As long as he doesn't die, the Li family will exist forever." Chapter 532 Purification. Yunlei paused when he heard this. "So, senior brother, do it. Don't let my sacrifice be worthless," Qinglei said with a pleading look. Yunlei closed his eyes with mixed emotions, as if he was digesting this matter, but the next moment, he immediately opened them, his expression became firm again, his eyes became calm, and he said loudly, "Okay, Alice." Li Zhirui sighed bitterly. If he didn't want to be like Qinglei and cut off his path, then there was only one way out. Escape back to Banyan Island, use the power of the formation to block Yunlei and Qinglei for a moment, giving him time to escape with Li Zhixuan, Li Chengxiu and other outstanding juniors. Although he was unwilling in his heart, Li Zhirui still suppressed his emotions with reason. Banyan Island could be lost. After all, with him, he could occupy a third-level spiritual mountain by the way. But the Li family cannot be destroyed, otherwise even if he escapes, he will eventually be a lonely cultivator. And this matter is very likely to become Li Zhirui's inner demon, entangled with him day and night. So when Qinglei appeared, Li Zhirui had already made plans to retreat back to Banyan Island and escape with a small number of his people. But Yunlei and the others were not stupid, so they naturally would not let him leave. Especially Qinglei, who seemed to know that his future was ruined and he had no will to live anymore, and attacked Li Zhirui desperately, just to stop Li Zhirui and then kill him. He had already consumed too much energy and had injuries in his body. In addition, Li Zhirui's own strength was slightly inferior to the two. Therefore, now facing the siege of Qinglei and Yunlei, in just a moment, the whole person became embarrassed and covered with wounds. Cough cough, Li Zhirui could no longer suppress the surging blood in his body, and coughed repeatedly, and a dazzling stream of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. "It looks like you won't be able to hold on for much longer," Yunlei said in a cold tone. "If you are willing to commit suicide to apologize, I can spare the lives of the other Li family cultivators." Before, he only wanted Li Zhirui to hand over a wisp of his soul, but with Qinglei's suicidal attack, Yunlei didn't want to see him again. And as Qinglei said, as long as Li Zhirui is still alive, it will be a disaster after all, so it's better to get rid of him as soon as possible. "Even if I die, I will take you with me. Li Zhirui's eyes were fierce and stared at Yunlei. Obviously, these two people are determined not to let him go. Instead of struggling in vain, it's better to give it a try. Qinglei doesn't have to worry too much. The netherworld coldness that permeates his body and penetrates into his bones will turn him into an ice corpse in no time. Therefore, as long as Yunlei dies, Shui Lingman and Wu Aishan will never let go of Xin Lishan, a sect that has been passed down for countless years. Of course, without Li Zhirui's protection, the Li family is likely to be wiped out by the two families to prevent future troubles. But doing so at least bought the Li family a lot of time to arrange for more clansmen to leave through the secret passage in the sea. Just when Li Zhirui was about to fight to the death, he suddenly felt a trace of netherworld coldness. In an instant, as if he had thought of something, he swallowed 3 azure sky treasure pills in one breath. And the huge mana filled his gentian in the blink of an eye. Then it poured out like a torrent, and the rain curtain covering several miles fell in an instant. One by one, vines as thick as giant trees rose from the ground and connected to the rain curtain, from top to bottom, isolating Qinglei and Yunlei in this space. Not good. Qinglei understood instantly and shouted in a hurry, "Brother, hurry! Break the water and wood, you two, it's too late." Li Zhirui's eyes were red, and in addition to anger, there was more sadness. A terrifying netherworld chill spread in this small space, quickly corroding the bodies of Yunlei and Qinglei. Who cast this evil spell? Yunlei's face changed slightly, but he was still able to remain calm and look for the source of the spell. After all, they saw clearly that Li Zhirui didn't move just now, and the spell could never have been cast by him. The Li family didn't have a second Yuanying's engine, so if it was cast by a giant and cultivator, the power might not be that great. At first, Yunlei still had this idea, but after just a few breaths, he felt something was wrong, because his body was changing to the state of Qinglei. And the speed was even faster than Qinglei's at the beginning. As for Qinglei, he was already severely infected by the netherworld chill, and in just a few breaths, he was completely unable to move. This is impossible. Yunlei was instantly terrified, with a trace of madness and fear on his face. He roared at Li Zhirui, "What kind of evil magic do you have?" Li Zhirui's eyes were terribly cold. He looked at him as if he was looking at a corpse. Without any explanation, he just increased his mana output and reinforced the water and wood barrier to prevent him from escaping. "Brother, hurry!" Qinglei could already feel that his soul was also infected by the strange and terrifying cold air and was about to die. It was a pity that he used up his last bit of strength and couldn't finish his words. Bang! A high-ranking Yuanying fell from the sky and hit the ground heavily. Like a corpse of ice, it was broken into pieces, and there was no trace of his illustrious reputation in his lifetime. "Brother," Yunlei shouted in pain, but fear accounted for a larger proportion. This was the fear of his own life. "Dao, please go." "No, no, no. I can't die yet. How can I die here?" Yunlei felt his body stiffen and his soul slow down. At this moment, he seemed to see countless evil ghosts screaming and wailing in the underworld. "Even if I die, I can't let you have an easy time." Perhaps it was the scene he saw in a trance that made Yunlei realize that his death was coming. He stopped struggling and encouraged the mana in his body to self-destruct. It must be said that Yunlei chose the right time. Because at this time, Li Zhirui had no mana to stop him. He could only hide in the mountain protection formation when Yunlei started to self-destruct. Put all the remaining spirit stones into the formation eye and increase the formation defense to the maximum. Even if you overdraw the spirit bane, there is no way. All clansmen, protect yourself with the most powerful defense. After hearing this, the dozen clansmen who had been sitting in the formation eye did not hesitate to follow the instructions. Spirit stones that could be piled up into a small mountain were poured out from the stored ring. The spirit banes were frantically converting spiritual energy to supply the formation and strengthen the defense of the Starlight Mountain and River formation. The other tribesmen did not dare to delay and hurriedly used their powerful strength. Boom boom boom, at the moment of completion, a dazzling spiritual light shot up into the sky, followed by a deafening explosion and an extremely terrifying energy impact that seemed to be able to destroy everything. At this moment, the whole world seemed to be purified and wiped out by some terrifying power, leaving only pure, dazzling white light. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 533 Sacrifice. Crack, crack, even the Starlight Mountain and River formation was shattered under this terrifying impact. Fortunately, it took away most of the power of Yun Li's self-explosion. At Li Zhirui's reminder, the clansmen used their most powerful defense. Most of them were safe and sound, but there were also injured or even dead clansmen. Compared with the Shanli mountain monks outside the formation, the fate of the Li family monks was not too miserable. When Yun Li exploded, Li Zhirui's water and wood barrier blocked the line of sight. The disciples of Shanli mountain were not aware of it at all, and naturally had no time to defend. The terrifying energy impact swept directly through their bodies. The moment they came into contact, the whole person turned into ashes. The speed was so fast that even they did not feel the pain of death. You know, in order to destroy the Li family, Shanli Mountain used 70% of its strength this time. But now, because of Yun Li's self-explosion, only 1 in 10 of the 70% of monks survived. Even the monks who were far enough away did not have a good end. They were even more painful than their dead fellow disciples, and collapsed to the ground, wailing. Is everyone okay? Li Zhirui ignored the dying monks. As soon as the energy subsided, he began to arrange for people to treat the injured clansmen and collect the bodies of those who unfortunately died. 9 brother, second grandpa, Grandpa Yan, and big brother, all. Li Zhixuan couldn't say the last few words. When seeing Qinglei appear, Li Zhirui was in crisis. Li Shiking turned and left with a determined look on his face. At that time, Li Zhixuan didn't understand what he was going to do. She just thought he was preparing for the family's escape after Li Zhirui failed, so she didn't care too much. But what Li Zhixuan never expected was that after Li Shiking left the front line, he summoned all the clansmen whose lifespans were less than 10 years. The family is in crisis. I have a method that may be able to solve this problem. After a pause, Li Shiking continued, but we all need to sacrifice our lives. If anyone is unwilling, you can turn around and leave. The family will not settle this matter in the future. Li Shiking waited for a moment, and saw that although there was some fear on everyone's face, no one turned around and left. He couldn't help but smile and said, my Li family is so lucky to have you. Time was in a hurry. Li Shiking didn't say any more nonsense, and took them directly to the altar where Li Zhirui had previously performed the summoning of the cold. But just as he was about to perform witchcraft, Li Shilian suddenly appeared on the altar. Go down. You still have 100 or 200 years to live. You shouldn't waste your life here, Li Shiking said in a low voice. Li Shilian smiled and said, second brother, if the cold air of the netherworld after your sacrifice can't hurt Yun Li, then you haven't sacrificed in vain. Li Shiking was speechless, and seeing that he looked determined, he didn't stop him. As Li Shiking performed witchcraft, the altar extracted everyone's blood, mana, and Taoism. Except for the soul source that could be reincarnated, everything was sacrificed. It was precisely because of the lives of 2 Jindan and more than a dozen foundation-building people that such a powerful netherworld cold air could be exerted, causing Yun Li to fall into despair in a short period of time. In the end, he had to gamble with self-destruction, hoping to take away Li Zhirui and most of the Li family monks. Unfortunately, Li Zhirui decisively used the spiritual stones accumulated by the family for so many years, and ignored the damage to the spiritual veins, blocking most of the power of Yun Li's self-destruction. Speaking of which, when Li Zhirui heard this, the whole person seemed to be hit by a sledgehammer. He was stunned in place, and suddenly an extremely strong sadness emerged in his heart. The memory that was originally deliberately forgotten suddenly floated to his mind. At the moment when the netherworld cold air appeared, Li Zhirui understood what was going on. But now, he knows that things are much more serious than he thought. In order to unleash the netherworld coldness that could threaten Yun Li, Li Shiking, Li Shilian, and all the elders of the family, including Li Zhixuan, a total of more than a dozen people, sacrificed their lives. Not even a single body was left. Brother Jiu, what happened to the family? Did a war break out? Why don't you knock on the gate and call me out? Li Zhirui rushed over in a hurry, her face full of worry. Behind her, there were many clansmen following. On Banyan Island, the main third-level spiritual vein was drained of a large amount of spiritual energy by the formation. Although it did not hurt the root, it also alarmed Li Zhirui and others who were in seclusion. When they came out, they saw corpses all over the ground, scattered pieces of meat and blood, a thick bloody smell that was suffocating, and the depressed and sad atmosphere of the clansmen. Knocking on the gate is something that no one will do unless it is absolutely necessary, because if something unexpected happens, it is tantamount to destroying the path of life. The matter has been resolved, don't worry. Li Zhirui forced a smile and said, it's just right that you are out of retreat. I have something for you to do. Li Zhirui frowned. She saw that Li Zhirui was hiding something, but since he didn't say it, it must be his reason, so she didn't ask more questions, just nodded and agreed. Shenlai Mountain invaded the family, but now the family has destroyed nearly 70% of its strength. I hope you can take the family members who still have fighting power to Shenlai Mountain and take the cabin, spiritual objects and other things back to the family. They said they were fighting members, but in fact they could still take elixirs and take advantage of the time to recover their magic power. Li Zhirui said, I will catch up with you later, his injuries are too serious now. If he doesn't deal with it, he may not be able to solve it. So Li Zhirui needs some time to suppress his injuries temporarily, and after solving the matter of Shenlai Mountain, he will go into retreat to heal his injuries. Now without Qianlai, King Li, and most of the giant and cultivators, Shenlai Mountain is a huge treasure. The Li family paid such a huge price. If they don't recover by looting Shenlai Mountain, they don't know how many years it will take to recover. Okay, seeing Li Zhirui's tired face, Li Zhirui responded and turned to select the clan members. Not long after, Li Zhirui led a group of clan members and drove several spirit ships towards Shenlai Mountain. Zhu Fen, you organize the elders to count the casualties of the clan members, arrange some third-level formations in the clan land, and clean up the clan land. After saying that, Li Zhirui turned back to the cave to suppress his injuries, but as if he suddenly thought of something, he added, also, send people out to appease those secular clan members and let them recover as soon as possible. Fortunately, with the development of the Li family over the years, the area of Banyan Island and the clan land has been expanding. It is far away from where the secular clan members live, so it should not be affected too much. Chapter 534 Warehouse. Shenlai Mountain. In the hall where the life tablets were placed, hundreds of life tablets were shattered at the same time in an instant. Such a huge movement shocked the monks guarding this place for a long time. How is this possible? As soon as he opened his mouth, his tone was full of disbelief. Yunli, King Li, the head, a group of elders, hundreds of foundation-building disciples, so many monks died at the same time. Could it be that the Li family asked an old ancestor of the god of transformation to take action? Otherwise, he really couldn't think of a second possibility. After a moment, when he calmed down a little and regained his rationality, he planned to leave and inform the other dozen elders who stayed in Shenlai Mountain. But just when he was about to push open the heavy door of the hall, he suddenly stopped. Shenlai Mountain lost this battle. As the winner, the Li family will probably come to Shenlai Mountain soon, continuing to stay as just a dead end. It is better to take advantage of this great opportunity to take away some precious things and escape from Shenlai Mountain. Anyway, as a giant and cultivator, his strength is still somewhat guaranteed. He can find a fairy city to spend the remaining 100 years of his life. Thinking of this, when he opened the door again, the direction he was heading was no longer the sect hall, but the cave where he lived and the storehouse. And to you, have you seized the opportunity to break through to the nascent soul after so many years of seclusion? Li Chengshu asked curiously. Li Zhirui smiled faintly and shook her head, saying, no, I always feel like there is a layer of mist between us. It looks easy to get, but in fact, I can't get through it no matter what. Is it very difficult? Li Chengshu was also stopped outside the door, but one was the nascent soul and the other was the Jinden. Although the realms were different, the feelings were similar, and they felt helpless. By the way, sure, do you know what happened to the family? Li Zhixun, who was not going to speak at first, heard this and immediately walked over, saying, go to the cabin and I'll tell you. Li Zhirui followed without saying a word. The two walked into an empty room one after the other, and then heard Li Zhixun say, the Thunder Mountain suddenly attacked, and Brother Jiu designed to block the Qinglei for a day, but the second Yuanying arrived soon, and Brother Jiu is the final winner because Grandpa Yan and others used their lives as sacrifices to perform that witchcraft. After listening to this, Li Zhirui didn't know what to say for a while. Just complete what Brother Jiu told you to do, don't think too much, the dead cannot be resurrected, and the current situation of the Li family is not good, so there is not much time for them to be sad. The spirit ship was speeding, and the clansmen on the ship were seizing the time to recover their mana. After all, there might be a battle next. However, when Li Zhirui and his party arrived at the Thunder Mountain, they found that the reality was somewhat different from what they imagined. They originally thought that some of the cultivators of the Thunder Mountain would stay until the end. But the result was not the case. Li Zhirui and his party didn't think that being able to wipe out so many cultivators in an instant would require at least the ancestors of the god of transformation to have this strength. Many elders who thought they had guessed the truth, Li Zhirui looked at the Bailang mountain in front of them, as if it had been dug 3 feet deep. Looking around, there were only some low-level spiritual objects. What a pity, Li Zhirui sighed helplessly. They came here for money, but now this is the result. Look carefully and see if you can find the hidden warehouse. Maybe there is an advantage now, that is, there is no need to fight. The reason why Li Zhirui said this is because there are many forces with a second warehouse, such as the Li family. And the things placed in this hidden warehouse are all precious treasures. The elders of Li Mountain who stayed in the mountain before, of course, they knew that there was such a warehouse with many treasures, but they didn't know when Li Zhirui and others would arrive. In the end, under the choice between wealth and life, everyone chose life. After all, these elders did not have real power in their hands and did not know how to open the formation of the warehouse. After everyone's carpet search, it didn't take long for them to find the hidden warehouse. But the embarrassing thing is that the defensive formation is too strong, and they can't break it by force. They can only wait for Li Zhirui to arrive. Everyone, look around the mountain to see if there are any treasures that have been missed. Everyone is still very enthusiastic about treasure hunting. They are all excited and search around the tall and majestic Li Mountain. It should be said that several treasures were really found. Although the number is not large, it once again aroused the enthusiasm of other tribesmen. It was not until half a day later that Li Zhirui arrived at Li Mountain. As soon as he landed, he noticed the situation here and knew that they did not fight. Although there was no danger, they also did not gain much. Is this the warehouse? After getting a positive answer, Li Zhirui began to attack the formation, trying to break it with violent means. Boom boom, the explosion sounded continuously and lasted for a long time, which shows how amazing the defensive power of this formation is. Go in. With the unremitting efforts of everyone, the door of the warehouse was finally opened. Wow! Seeing the dazzling array of treasures emitting various precious lights around them, Li Zhirui and others were greatly shocked, and then there was a burst of ecstasy. With the precious spiritual objects in this warehouse, the Li family can recover quickly. Even the knowledgeable Li Zhirui couldn't help swallowing his saliva when he saw these treasures in front of him. Because the spiritual objects are precious, it is impossible to distribute them to every member of the clan, and they can only be rewarded with contribution points. In the end, it took several hours and 2 storage rings just to collect these treasures. A few days later. What did you say? The Li family won the final victory in the battle with Li Mountain, and looted Li Mountain. Shuking and Yahe, 2 Yuanying's Henjin, heard the news, and their first reaction was that it was impossible. Even if Li Zhirui is brilliant, potential is potential, strength is strength, and it is impossible to transform potential into strength immediately. If Li Mountain won the final victory, there are still some possibilities. The monks who came back to report also felt that this news was too incredible. No one would believe it just by saying it, so they used the photo stone to record the current scenery of Li Mountain. Li Mountain, which was originally full of green mountains and clear waters and full of vitality, now looks like the whole spiritual mountain is dead. Both of them are well-informed people, so they can naturally see what is going on. The spiritual veins of this mountain have been forcibly drained. Chapter 535 Follow-up. But a few days ago, after Li Zhirui and others emptied the warehouse of Li Mountain, they asked Li Zhirui and Li Zhirui to take the tribesmen back to Banyan Island to prevent any accidents. After returning to Banyan Island, if the formation on the island has been arranged, Li Zhirui will bring all the formation masters of the family to help. If not, just wait for them to finish. He himself stayed on Li Mountain to comprehend a secret method called soul extraction. The soul extraction secret method has no lethality and cannot be used for defense, but it can extract the essence of the spirit vein. At that time, the essence can be used to cultivate a new spirit vein or integrate it into the existing spirit vein. There are pros and cons to both options. The former can restore the original grade of the spirit vein, but it takes a long time to evolve. The latter can improve the grade of the spirit vein in a short time, but after the fusion, the two spirit veins will merge into one. The difficulty of this secret method is not great, but it is very complicated and requires the arrangement of a very large formation pattern. This is why Li Zhirui asked Li Zhixun to bring the family formation masters here. Li Zhirui was doing two things at once. While healing his internal injuries, he was comprehending the secret method of extracting spirits. At the same time, he distributed the array patterns to the array masters who arrived the next day, asking them to take note of them as soon as possible. Shenlai Mountain only had one fourth-order spirit vein, but there were many third-order spirit veins around. Li Zhirui thought that since he was going to extract the essence of the spirit veins, he might as well take them away. Anyway, this place was too far away from Banyan Island. Not to mention the Li family, which suffered heavy losses after the war. Even the Li family in its heyday could not control this place. If it weren't for the fact that extracting the spirit veins would cause the surrounding vitality to decline, hurt the harmony of heaven, and cause karma to be added, Li Zhirui even wanted to bring the spirit veins of the entire Wanli state back to Banyan Island. You know, Shenlai Mountain has developed for so many years and has a total of more than 50 third-order spirit veins. If the Li family can get all of them, they can at least cultivate a fifth-order spirit vein, or several fourth-order spirit veins. At that time, the spiritual energy on Banyan Island will become extremely rich. What a pity, Li Zhirui murmured softly. Brother Jiu, what did you say? Li Zhixun, who was not far away, did not hear clearly and asked. It's okay, there was nothing to say about this matter. He turned and looked at the group of array masters and said, have you memorized the array pattern? I have. Then start to arrange it. It must have been several days, and the major forces around have gradually known the results of the war. While they were surprised, they must have thought that the Li family suffered heavy losses. Maybe they would be surprised and doubtful because of the death of Yunlei and Qinglei, but they might also take action directly. So Li Zhirui wanted to return to Banyan Island as soon as possible, so that if a certain force really came to test, he could respond in time. In addition to this reason, it was also because the injuries in his body were about to be suppressed. If he was not treated in time, his path would probably stop here. With Li Zhirui's order, dozens of array masters started to draw array patterns carefully. Complex and mysterious array patterns were spread all over the Shenlai Mountain. It took a whole day just to draw the array pattern. After checking again and again, Li Zhirui asked everyone to step back. He flew to the top of Shenlai Mountain and cast a spell quickly. Under the effect of magic power, the array patterns were connected and connected. A mysterious spiritual light spread quickly, covering the entire mountain. In the depths of the ground that no one could see, several spiritual veins made waves of unwilling sounds, but they could not resist the spiritual light extracting essence from their bodies. Li Zhirui led a group of clansmen on the spirit ship to wait for the end of the extraction. After a few hours, the sun set in the west and the moon disk rose into the sky. In the dim sky, several dazzling and gorgeous spiritual beads were suspended in the air. The spiritual bead in the middle, which was as big as a human head, was the essence of the fourth-level spiritual vein. Just a little closer, you can feel an extremely huge and pure spiritual energy from it. The remaining spiritual beads are of different sizes, and there is a big difference between them. Some are only the size of a fist, and some are several times larger. Let's go. It's time to go back to Banyan Island. After finishing the work, Li Zhirui left without staying. The spirit ship sped and returned to Banyan Island in just 1 hour. Li Zhirui immediately integrated the fourth-level spirit bead into the intact third-level spirit vein of the family. The remaining spirit beads also went to different places, but most of them were buried deep underground and continued to evolve on their own. After all, with the fourth-level spirit vein, plus the original spirit veins on the island, the spiritual energy is already very rich, which can not only meet the needs of all the clan members, but also further expand the spirit fields and plant more spiritual objects. Then Li Zhirui called Li Zhixun, Li Zhiyu and other golden elixirs, as well as elders such as Li Zufan. The crisis of the family has not really ended yet, so I must hurry up to heal my wounds. I'll trouble you for the subsequent recovery process. Brother Jiu, is your injury serious? Li Zhixun asked hurriedly. The others also looked worried. Li Zhirui is the pillar of the Li family. If anything happens to him, the whole family will be in big trouble. Don't worry, it's just that the mana is consumed too much. Just take a good breath, but in fact, Li Zhirui's injuries are much more serious than he said, with insufficient blood and qi, damaged meridians, excessive consumption of soul and spirit, etc. A single problem may not be serious, but when it is added up, it is not a small problem. Not to mention that Li Zhirui used his mana many times to extract the spirit veins of Shanli Mountain, which aggravated his injuries. However, Li Zhirui and others did not doubt it because his extraction process was very smooth. That, ancestor, what specifications will be used for the funeral of ancestor Shiking? Li Zhifeng hesitated for a moment, but still asked. Maybe they didn't know what Li Shiking and others had done at first, but so many days have passed since the end of the war. If they still don't know, it would be too dereliction of duty. The highest standard of the family. Do it as soon as possible, so that they can rest in peace. Li Zhirui was stunned for a moment, then said, if they have offspring, the family must make compensation. He just felt a little sorry for the two old people who took good care of him. Because of Li Zhirui's current condition, there is no way to delay any longer. He must be treated as soon as possible. If there is nothing else, I will go back to the cave to heal my wounds. After waiting for a while, seeing that no one spoke, Li Zhirui disappeared instantly. Seeing this scene, Li Zhirui's eyes flashed with worry. It seems that the ninth brother's injury is much more serious than he said. Otherwise, he would not have participated in the funeral of the two elders. You have always been in charge of family affairs, and you have handled them very well, so you can discuss and solve them by yourselves. Li Zhixun put away the expression in his eyes and said, if you encounter any danger, you can go to the cave to call me. Chapter 536 Peeping. With the island protection formation blocking it, the clan land was not damaged too much. At most, some houses were damaged, which was not too serious. We can also take this opportunity to replan the layout of the clan members' houses, so that they are not built everywhere, so that it is difficult to open up spiritual fields. However, in the place closest to the self-explosion of Yunli, the surrounding hills were razed to the ground due to the terrifying energy impact. If we have time to clean up and reclaim this place in the future, it will be a very good spiritual field. Under the leadership of Li Zhifeng and others, the speed of reconstruction of the clan land was amazing. In less than 10 days, the ruins of the previous broken walls could not be seen at all. During this period, Li Zhifeng also organized a solemn and grand funeral. Except for Li Zhirui, a clan member with more serious injuries, the rest, whether it was a young child who had just tested his spiritual roots or an old man, all participated. But because the sacrifice was too thorough, there was no trace of flesh and blood or bones left, so only a tomb of clothes and hats could be set up. A stone tablet was erected in front of them, on which was written the reasons why everyone sacrificed, so that future generations could admire and pay tribute to them. Death, in addition to bringing sadness, also made the living tribesmen more united, close, and motivated. Perhaps it was because of a life and death battle that stimulated the tribesmen, or perhaps the rising spiritual energy of Wongsan Island brought some kind of opportunity, and one after another tribesmen felt a breakthrough and went into seclusion. As a result, the later ones had no spiritual caves to use, and could only temporarily build a few bluestone houses in places with rich spiritual energy for the tribesmen to use. Li Zhifeng and a group of elders had been busy day and night for several days. Even though they were cultivators, they could not bear it anymore. They were about to close their eyes and rest for a while, but they heard someone report that the 3 Yuanying's engines of Nanai Chamber of Commerce came to visit. Finally here, Li Zhifeng was shocked and swallowed a spirit pill. He walked out quickly and said, go and report to those giant elders. Before Li Zhirui went into seclusion, he told Li Zhifeng that he had asked Nanya Chamber of Commerce for help for safety reasons, and told Li Zhifeng the conditions he had promised before. He would refine the 4th level treasure pill for Nanya Chamber of Commerce at cost price for 10 years, and supply the treasure pill at a very favorable price for the next 30 years. In addition, Li Zhirui also promised that in the future, in addition to the shops opened by the Li family, only Nanya Chamber of Commerce would be allowed to settle in all the territories occupied by the Li family, and no other large chambers of commerce would be allowed to move in. At the same time, at the door of the Li family's land, 3 middle-aged men stood here with different expressions. I didn't expect that the Li family would be the final winner in this battle. One of them shook his head and said, it seems that we have made a wasted trip. Although they did not go to Shanli Mountain, seeing that the Li family was well organized, how could they not guess the result? It seems that you haven't known this fellow from the Li family. Otherwise you wouldn't say such a thing." Another person laughed and said, "This is a true 4th level alchemy master, and he is also quite familiar with the ways of the world. He won't let us go empty-handed." Really? The first person's eyes lit up when he heard this. This is the best. The one who had not spoken a word suddenly said, "Have you ever thought about how the Li family defeated the Shanli mountain? Who doesn't have a little secret? But what does this have to do with us? We are not cultivators from the East region, we are just following orders." At this time, Li Zhifang came out with a group of clansmen to greet them, and the three of them kept silent tacitly. The Li family of Banyan Island welcomes the three seniors to come, led by Li Zhifang. Everyone bowed in greeting. "Please forgive me, seniors. My ancestor was slightly injured in killing 2 true lords. He is in seclusion for treatment and cannot come to greet you personally. However, I have prepared a gift of apology. I hope you will accept it." 3 juniors who had built their foundation came out upon hearing the voice, carrying a low-key and luxurious jade box, and presented it to the 3 people. "It's just a small matter." The 3 people simultaneously used their spiritual sense to take a look, and joy immediately appeared on their faces. The jade box was not big, but it contained 2 bottles of 4th-level treasure pills and a 4th-level spiritual object obtained from the storehouse of Shanli Mountain. The gifts for these 3 people alone were worth hundreds of thousands of spiritual stones. Li Zhifang felt very distressed. "You 3 seniors must have been very tired after traveling all the way. The family has already prepared a banquet. Why don't you come in and rest for a while?" "No problem, it's not worth it to take someone's money. Besides, the things that Li Zhirui discussed with the Chamber of Commerce also need to be implemented, so it's impossible for him to leave immediately." Under the guidance of Li Zhirui, the banquet made the 3 Yuanying's so happy that they forgot the time and stayed at the Li family for a night. When Li Zhifang and his people sent them out, their attitude became particularly close. The reason for doing so was mainly to use these 3 to intimidate the monks who were spying near Banyan Island. As early as when Li Zhirui came back from Shanli Mountain, he found that there were many more pairs of eyes near the family, but at that time, he was powerless and had to pretend not to know. Fortunately, because of the distance, they only saw that Li Zhirui was safe and sound, and could not judge his true situation, so they did not dare to act rashly. They hesitated for several days and did not dare to make up their minds. Then the 3 Yuanying's of Nanya Chamber of Commerce arrived. When they saw that Li Zhirui was not among the welcoming personnel, they instantly realized that Li Zhirui's injuries were very serious and could not move easily. Unfortunately, they understood it too late. The 3 Hunjins were in charge of Banyan Island, and their attitude was so close to the Li family. They did not dare to make any other moves. Even though they saw the 3 true lords leave, they still did not make any other moves. "The one from the Li family is really good at playing with people's hearts. He has played with so many of us," True Lord Shuking said with a wry smile. They did not dare to gamble before, fearing that Li Zhirui might have deliberately pretended to be seriously injured. Now they still do not dare to gamble, because Li Zhirui may have recovered a lot in the past few days. "Alice," True Lord Yahe sighed, his face full of helplessness, and said, "Let's go. There is no need to stay, since they dare not take action. Why stay here and waste time? If you want to blame them for being too timid." At first, they did not dare to take advantage of the battle between the 2 families, and Shanli Mountain was empty. Now that Li Zhirui's injury is unknown, they dare not gamble. The 2 true lords looked at each other and saw the bitterness on each other's faces. After a moment, they left without saying a word. Finally gone, after the 2 true lords led their people away, Li Zhixun, Li Zhiyu and other clansmen with higher realms on Banyan Island breathed a sigh of relief. Chapter 537 Surprise. "Damn it! We've fallen into a trap." Zi Changhong looked at the dozen giant and demon cultivators who suddenly jumped out in front of him, and his face suddenly darkened. Those traces they found before were probably deliberately exposed by the demon cultivators to lure them into the trap. Fortunately, because of Zhang Fengwu's reminder, they did not completely walk into the trap, otherwise they would really be in a desperate situation and die. The demon cultivators are powerful, and we are no match for them. Instead of gathering together and dying here, it is better to escape separately, and perhaps we can still seize this ray of hope. Zi Changhong reacted very quickly. The moment he saw the demon cultivators appear, he spoke quickly and turned into a rainbow light and fled first. Because of the worry in her heart, Zhang Fengwu, who was very careful all the way, also followed at the first time. and the direction of escape was different from Zi Changhong. After she came to King Lian's house, she remembered the map of this place by heart and knew where the nearest fairy city was. As long as Zhang Fengwu escaped to the vicinity of the fairy city, she would be safe. As for Zi Changhong's actions, she didn't care at all. Although they had known each other for several years, in the final analysis, they were just a group of cultivators who gathered together to obtain resources. When disaster struck, they would naturally flee separately. The reaction speed of other cultivators was not slow either, but they were only delayed for a moment, and the result was completely different. After all, with the actions of Zhang Fengwu and Zi Changhong, the demon cultivators had already been on guard, and naturally would not give them a chance to escape. The number of these giant cultivators is not enough. Who of you will go and catch the two who just escaped? The leading demon cultivator said in a deep voice. I'll go and catch that female cultivator, a demon cultivator in white clothes, who is as handsome as a jade and had a dignified appearance, and was completely different from the surrounding demon cultivators, stood up. The leading demon cultivator looked at him, but did not object. He only warned him, the souls of these giant cultivators are the materials for the ancestors of the sect to refine weapons. You should be careful and don't go too far. Don't worry. A strange dark light flashed across the affectionate peach blossom eyes of the white-clothed demon cultivator, and then he flew after him, so fast that he disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. At the same time, another demon cultivator also stood up. After escaping from the demon cultivator, Zhang Fengwu's heart did not calm down, but became more and more uneasy, as if something bad was about to happen. This feeling made her speed up again, and at the same time, she tightly grasped several third-level talismans in her hand. Once someone caught up, she would throw the talismans out. My fellow Taoist, why are you running so fast? The white-clothed demon cultivator quickly caught up and said with a faint smile, why don't you stop for a while and appreciate my craftsmanship? After that, regardless of whether Zhang Fengwu agreed or not, several spiritual lights flew out of the storage ring, which turned out to be lifelike puppets. You are so beautiful. Just the right person to fill the vacancy in my theater, while talking and laughing. The white-clothed demon cultivator controlled the puppet to attack Zhang Fengwu. Zhang Fengwu threw out the third-level talisman in his hand without hesitation, breaking the siege in an instant, and did not entangle with it, just running wildly. The moment she saw the other party, Zhang Fengwu knew clearly in her heart that she was no match for him. When the puppets were released, she immediately understood the reason. These puppets were all made of gold and elixir flesh. Even if their strength was reduced, they could fight Zhang Fengwu on equal terms when they united, not to mention that there was the demon cultivator beside them. Since he knew that he was no match for the other party, there was no need to entangle with the other party. It would be better to seize the time to escape to the vicinity of the Immortal City and let the demon cultivator retreat. Isn't it too rude for you to leave without saying a word, unexpectedly? No matter how fast Zhang Fengwu flew, the man could easily catch up. And looking at his appearance, this should not be the opponent's maximum speed. The reason why he was chasing behind was probably to tease Zhang Fengwu. After understanding this, Zhang Fengwu suddenly felt a surge of anger in his heart. Since you want to fight so much, let me see your ability. As soon as the voice fell, thousands of ice blades appeared out of thin air in the sky, whistling and shooting towards the white-clothed demon cultivator. The white-clothed demon cultivator smiled slightly, casually took out a puppet, clapped his hands, and suddenly a sea of fire appeared, protecting him in the deepest part. Zhang Fengwu felt his scalp tingling. The other party had taken out 6 or 7 golden elixir puppets before, and thought it was the opponent's limit, but now it seems that it is not the case. However, she did not give up. The other party's strength is unfathomable, but she is not so easily subdued. Not to mention that before leaving Banyan Island, Li Zhirui gave her a lot of life-saving spiritual objects. Interesting. It seems that it is unlikely to get your body intact. The white-clothed demon cultivator saw the change in Zhang Fengwu's expression and couldn't help but laugh softly. Fortunately, the old demon in the sect only wanted the soul, otherwise he would not be able to get such a good material for refining a doll. Zhang Fengwu's strength was not bad, but after staying in Banyan Island for many years, his ability had deteriorated a little. However, after training in King Lian's house for several years, he had recovered and even became stronger. It's a pity that the demon cultivator she faced had strange and changeable methods, making it hard to predict what kind of moves he would make next. As a result, Zhang Fengwu fell into disadvantage shortly after the battle. with many wounds on his body, blood staining his clothes, and he looked very embarrassed. What a pity, such a beautiful body has now become so flawed. The white-clothed demon cultivator looked like he was sure of victory, and he didn't worry about losing at all. But this is normal. Not to mention how embarrassed Zhang Fengwu is after being beaten. He is also one of the strongest in the dangerous and brutal demon sect Daoyao. Why don't you surrender? This will also reduce some pain. Zhang Fengwu turned a deaf ear to this and just gritted her teeth to resist. And up to now, she has not used the 4th level talisman and the jade slip of distraction. The reason why Zhang Fengwu did this is very simple. She wants to touch the threshold of the nascent soul through this stimulation. But it is very dangerous to do so, because there is a possibility that she will not be able to use her trump card and end up with a death. If Li Zhirui knew, he would never let Zhang Fengwu do this. As time went by, Zhang Fengwu's injuries became more and more serious, and blood flowed all over her body. She became like a bloody man, and her breath was even more terrible. But even so, she still did not fall down, and used her limited magic power to fight against the white-clothed demon cultivator who was playing tricks on Zhang Fengwu. Between life and death, Zhang Fengwu seemed to see a door that opened a little gap for her. Success! Zhang Fengwu's spirits lifted, his eyes full of surprise. Without hesitation, he activated the 4th level talisman in his hand and threw it at the other party. Chapter 538 Distribution. He thought it was fish on the chopping board, but he didn't expect the other party to be so hidden. The white-clothed demon cultivator frowned slightly. His expression was no longer as careless as before. His 10 fingers flew, and a series of afterimages appeared during the sliding. More than a dozen puppets attacked together, various spells flew together, and the spiritual light was brilliant, which looked very dangerous. However, in front of the attack of the 4th level talisman, it still seemed a little vulnerable. As soon as it came into contact, it fell apart. However, the talisman is just a talisman after all. No matter how powerful it is rootless. As long as the mana of the talisman is exhausted, Zhang Fengwu, who has little mana left, still can't escape from his palm. But he didn't think that Zhang Fengwu had other talismans in his hand. A 3rd level Earth Escape talisman is enough to take her out of the world. Looking at the empty front, the white-clothed demon cultivator's face was extremely ugly. The duck in his mouth actually flew away. Dozens of miles away, Zhang Fengwu, who escaped from the dead, was covered with the wounds, but she smiled very brightly. She knew that her actions were very dangerous. If she was not careful, she would be seriously injured or even die. Fortunately, she made the right bet in the end. Between life and death, she touched the door of the nascent soul. Next, Zhang Fengwu only needs to return to Banyan Island, heal her injuries, practice in seclusion for a few years, and then take the nascent soul pill carefully prepared for her by Li Zhirui. By then, her chance of turning the pill into a baby will be improved. As long as nothing unexpected happens, she will become a nascent soul true lord. Thinking of this, the smile on Zhang Fengwu's face became more brilliant. But now, she has to fly to the nearby fairy city as soon as possible to treat her injuries temporarily, on Banyan Island. The sadness that the war brought to the tribesmen at the beginning has become very faint under the erosion of time, and has turned into a joyous atmosphere. There are many reasons for this change. One is that the spiritual energy of Banyan Island has become very rich, providing many tribesmen with a very good practice environment. Secondly, many clan members gained insights during the war. After a period of seclusion, most of them succeeded. Only a few people failed when they broke through the realm. The last point is also the most critical point. That is, Li Zhifang reformed the family's spiritual fields. The spiritual fields originally managed by the family were distributed to all adults or clan members who had cultivated to the late stage of key training, and they were allowed to plant them themselves. After maturity, they only needed to hand over 40% to the family, and the rest belonged to themselves. Of course, the ownership of the spiritual fields is still in the hands of the family. The clan members only have the right to use them. After death, they will be recovered and distributed to other clan members. That is, when there are more and more clan members in the future, the spiritual fields on Banyan Island will not be enough, and some of the clan members' spiritual fields will be arranged to Yunping's and other places. If it is not handled well, it is very likely to cause family conflicts. However, this kind of thing is still a bit far away for the current Li family. And from the current situation, this approach still has many advantages. It has mobilized the enthusiasm of the clan members at once, and everyone is doing their best to take care of their own piece of spiritual field. The Li family was developing rapidly and vigorously. At the same time, Li Zhirui, Li Zhirui and others were not idle. Although the Li family was not able to control such a large area with its current strength, the ownership was still obtained, especially those forces that were originally vassalized by Shanli Mountain, and they also needed to recognize the new owner again. If they offered sacrifices, it would be fine, but if they were stubborn, then it was no wonder that the Li family was cruel. You know, in this area, except for Li Zhirui, there is no other Yuaning's engine. It can be said that Li Zhirui and Li Zhirui, two late Jinden, plus Li Chengru and several Jinden, are already the top in strength, not to mention that they also brought several third-level mountain guarding spirit beasts. With a scale of combat power, no force can stop it. Not to mention that there is Li Zhirui, the Yuaning's engine behind them. Although Li Zhirui did not show up in front of outsiders after the war, it was rumored that he was seriously injured, but as long as he did not die, no matter how serious his injuries were, he would be a mountain pressing on their heads. All forces submitted to the Li family obediently, even those who were diehards of Shanli Mountain before. Unless they were willing to perish with Shanli Mountain, or abandon the mountain gate in clan land. They had been operating for many years and flee to other places. But it was obvious that a sect that had already disappeared was not worth such a huge price for them. The resources offered by these forces alone were equivalent to half of the spiritual objects consumed by the Li family for this war, plus various precious spiritual objects looted from the Shanli Mountain warehouse. Except for the death of some clan members, the Li family not only did not lose, but made a lot of money. However, because the Li family was limited in strength, many vassal forces could not be governed at all, so they were only required to pay a certain amount of tribute every year, and nothing else was mentioned. Finally it's done, we can go back to Banyan Island, Li Chengru sighed as if he was relieved. During this period, they really ran around everywhere, and even as cultivators, they couldn't bear it. In that case, let's go back, Li Zhirui said with a faint smile. She wanted to go back early to see if Li Zhirui had recovered from his injury. Ever since she saw that his injury was serious, Li Zhirui had been thinking about this matter in her heart, and she was really worried. Everyone had been out for quite a while, so naturally they would not object. There was no conversation along the way, and the spirit ship returned to Banyan Island at the fastest speed. We have been out for less than a month, and the family has changed so much. The rich spiritual energy turned into thin white mist, and a large area of lush and green seedlings of spiritual creatures, and bursts of bees came to the ears. What a beautiful and vibrant scene! Looking at the completely different scenery and feeling the rich spiritual energy around, everyone's face showed surprise and admiration. After everyone dispersed, Li Zhirui made a special trip to Li Zirui's cave. Aunt Zhuan, you're back. It was Li Changshu who opened the door. Before Li Zhirui entered, he couldn't wait to ask, are those forces convinced? Have you ever fought? Of course they are convinced. With so many of us coming to their door, how dare they resist? Seeing that Li Changshu was going to ask more, Li Zhirui took the lead and asked, how is Brother 9? Has he come out of retreat? No. When saying this, Li Changshu's face did not show any worry, but was very happy. He said, Dad sent news a few days ago that he is going to retreat to break through the middle stage of the nascent soul and will not come out in a short time. Li Zhirui's face was a little strange. It sounded fine, but she always felt something was wrong in her heart. That couldn't be better, but in front of the younger generation, she didn't show any emotion. After chatting for a while, Li Zhirui left. Chapter 539 Return. In fact, when Li Zhirui said that he was about to break through, it was not a lie. But before that, he needed to solve a problem, a very troublesome problem. That is the serious injury in his body. In the battle with Yan Li and King Li, it can be said that Li Zirui's injuries, from the flesh to the soul, were not intact. Individually, it may not seem too serious, but the many injuries are superimposed together, and one hair moves the whole body, making Li Zhirui dare not make any big moves, so that the healing progress is extremely slow. The only good news is that the injury is no longer getting worse. Are you planning to go out for training and find an opportunity to break through the nascent soul? Looking at Li Zhirui, who is about to leave the family with a sword, Li Zhirui asked. In her opinion, Li Zhirui was really too hasty to do this. How long has it been since he broke through the late Jinden? He wants to hit the big bottleneck. I guess so, Li Zhirui gave an ambiguous answer. Of course, she knew that in a short period of time, unless she got a great opportunity, it would be impossible for her to break through the nascent soul so quickly. Li Zhirui was previously haunted by her inner demons, so let's not talk about it for now. But Zhang Fengwu has been trapped in the late Jinden stage for decades, and there has been no news of her breakthrough. No matter who they are, their qualifications are better than Li Zhirui's, and their character, opportunities, etc. are also on par, not inferior, but they have spent so much time. How can Li Zhirui succeed in a short time? Therefore, Li Zhirui's ultimate goal of going out for training this time is of course to be able to break through the nascent soul, but more importantly, she wants to improve her strength through training. It just so happens that the family's troubles and threats have been resolved, and the remaining affairs are handled by Li Zhifeng and others, so she is no longer needed. Then go, I will protect the family. Li Zhirui heard this and said calmly without asking any more questions. Since she has been in seclusion for several years and has not gained anything, it is likely to be the same if she continues in a short period of time. There is no need to waste time on this, and she can take some time. It's just right to make up for Li Zhirui's debt to the family. Li Zhixuan flew away on the sword without saying a word, and everyone stood on the island and watched her go. After the death of Li Shiking and others, the three people with the highest seniority in the family are now Li Zhirui, Li Zhiru, and Li Zhixuan. However, one is in seclusion, one is out, and the remaining one does not care about trivial matters and does not interfere with the management of the family. Fortunately, Li Zhifeng and others did not disappoint. Under their management, the family has developed very well. It's time to go back. Zhang Fengwu walked out of the cave that was specially rented for healing and said with a smile on her face. After this period of treatment, she has completely recovered. When she returns to Banyan Island, she can start seclusion and work hard to break through the nascent soul. Fellow Taoist Zhang, I didn't expect to meet you again. It's fate. Just as Zhang Fengwu was walking out of the city, a familiar voice suddenly sounded, and Zi Changhong walked quickly and looked at her with surprise. Zhang Fengwu's eyes flashed with surprise. She didn't expect to meet Zi Changhong again. She replied in a lukewarm manner, long time no see, after we separated and fled that day, did you meet other people? No, Qinglian province is so big that it is not easy to meet again in the vast sea of people. Besides, most of those teammates were probably killed by the demon cultivators. Zi Changhong's face showed disappointment, but it only lasted for a moment. Then he invited enthusiastically, saying, Dao Yao, let's join forces again, recruit teammates, hunt demon cultivators, and earn resources. How about it? Thank you for your kindness, Dao Yao, but I have been away from home for several years, and my injuries have not yet healed. Dao Yao should find someone else. Zhang Fengwu refused without hesitation. Her most important task now is to break through the nascent soul. What's more, the purpose of her coming to Qinglian province that year has been completed, and there is no need to stay here. That's a pity. If you change your mind, you can come to me anytime. Zi Changhong didn't force it. The reason why he made the invitation was because of Zhang Fengwu's sudden spiritual perception. But spiritual perception is not very effective. Since the other party refused, and the reason was so perfect, there was no need for him to waste his breath. However, neither of them expected that Zi Changhong would meet Li Zhixuan soon after. Because he accidentally saw her killing a demon cultivator, he pestered her and made Li Zhixuan join his demon hunting team. After separating from Zi Changhong, Zhang Fengwu left the fairy city smoothly. The journey was calm and there was no accident. He returned to Banyan Island very smoothly. After all, the late Jinden stage is already a first-class combat force with strong strength. In the realm of cultivators, there is almost no danger. But when Zhang Fengwu set foot on Banyan Island, she was surprised to find that the mountain protection formation had changed. If she hadn't seen the spiritual bird flying in the sky and the Li family emblem, she would have thought that the place had changed hands. At the same time, Zhang Fengwu also realized that her previous strong uneasiness was not only because of the danger she encountered, but also because of the danger of the Li family, or Li Zhirui, who was connected to her destiny. She hurried into the clan land and rushed towards the cave, not noticing the changes in the surrounding environment. When Zhang Fengwu saw the closed door, she was more certain of her guess. Mom! When did you come back? Li Chengshul, who was about to go out to the formation hall to deliver a task, happened to see Zhang Fengwu staring at the door in a daze, and shouted in surprise. just came back. Jiang Fengwu's consciousness instantly returned, and she asked anxiously, did a big battle happen in the family? Is Ziru's injury serious? Speaking of this, Li Chengshuo's expression instantly became gloomy, and she told everything she knew about the battle between the family and Shenli Mountain. Dad said that his injury was not serious, but he was expected to break through, so he stayed in seclusion and asked us not to worry. As for Li Zhirui, who Jiang Fengwu was most concerned about, she said it alone at the end. After listening to it, Jiang Fengwu was stunned. She had never expected such a tragic and cruel war. All the older generation of cultivators in the family perished, and the Shenli Mountain, which had been passed down for thousands of years, was destroyed. As for Li Chengshuo's last words, Jiang Fengwu was skeptical. She knew Li Zhirui and knew that he was a person who was used to reporting good news but not bad news. Those words must have been used to appease Li Chengshuo and others. The real situation was probably much more serious. Mom, you're back at the right time. The family is clamoring to set up a new island protection formation, but there is no leader with enough weight, so there has been no progress. Li Chengshuo didn't think so much, and shared the things she valued without worries. Now that you're back, the host of this island protection formation must be you. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 540 Formation. Jiang Fengwu did not refuse to build a new island protection formation. Although she had seen the gate of the nascent soul realm, she could try to deduce more advanced formations at that time, but she had not really walked in yet, and she didn't know how long it would take to take this step. Maybe it would be a year later, or maybe it would be 10 years. During this period of time, the Li family couldn't just withstand these mediocre defense formations, right? In case of any danger, this formation would be as fragile as paper and easily broken by the opponent, and would hardly have any effect. Then go to the formation hall and tell those people to let them refine the formation flag of the Starlight Mountain and River Formation, Jiang Fengwu ordered. This is the formation she is most familiar with, and it was also the most powerful formation of the family before. Li Chengshuo smiled and said, Mother, you just came back, and you don't know that the family has obtained a legacy of a large sect, which records many more powerful formations. The inheritance jade slips of the Mingdao sect have a lot of content and hide many secrets. It is impossible to lend it to every member of the clan for observation, but it is also impossible to hide it and let the pearl be covered in dust. Therefore, it was split up, and the many inheritances inside were engraved into new jade slips in different categories. According to the preciousness, they were placed in the corresponding positions in the Sutra library and open to all clansmen for exchange. Of course, witchcraft like calling the cold was put aside and sealed. Although the array masters trained by the Li family were far less talented than Jiang Fengwu in array, they could still make a one-to-one replica. Oh? Really? Jiang Fengwu was eager to look through the arrays. Although she had been killing demon cultivators in Qinglian province for many years, she did not give up arrays. When she was free, Jiang Fengwu would deduce in her sea of consciousness, or refine array flags and array plates. Therefore, Jiang Fengwu's realm in arrays did not regress, but became more and more advanced. But before that, she had a more important thing. Do you know where Deking and Zhaoqing are? They should be in the Spirit Beast mountain range, right? Li Chengshuo was a little unsure. When she said this, she realized that she seemed to have not seen these two elders for a long time. Jiang Fengwu was even more worried about Li Zhirui, but he couldn't show it in front of Li Chengshuo, so he said, then go to the formation hall and help me gather the formation masters of the family. Let's discuss which formation should be arranged. Okay, Li Chengshuo happily accepted the order and walked towards the formation hall happily. After sending his daughter away, Jiang Fengwu went to the Spirit Beast mountain range alone to find Deking and Zhaoqing. Fortunately, she was lucky and soon met Zhaoqing, who was returning from having fun. Huh? Why are you back? Zhaoqing was surprised by Jiang Fengwu, who suddenly appeared in front of her. Have you broken through the bottleneck? Jiang Fengwu stared at Zhaoqing, and instead of answering, he asked, tell me the real situation of Zhirui. Don't think about lying to me. Ninth brother was seriously injured and needs to rest for a while. There is no threat to his life. Facing Jiang Fengwu, Zhaoqing was not easy to coax, so she could only reveal a little bit of the real situation. I understand. After getting the answer, Jiang Fengwu did not stay here, but turned and flew towards the formation hall. The Nine Rivers Blue Waves formation is good. It can provide strong defense and counterattack. As soon as the voice fell, it was opposed by others. No. It's too easy to be broken. Then tell me, what formation should be used? When choosing the island protection formation, everyone talked about it and almost quarreled. Jiang Fengwu pushed the door open. She heard a little bit outside, but she didn't understand it because there was no background. Have you discussed the result? Jiang Fengwu checked the jade slips that recorded the formations and asked for everyone's opinions. After quickly understanding these formations, she already had an answer in her mind, but she had to listen to other people's opinions. I think the Thousand Forests mysterious formation is pretty good. The range of the formation is large enough to further expand the clan's territory, and it is easy to set up, but its defense is a little weak. The shortcoming you mentioned is too fatal. If someone comes to attack the family again, using this formation, it won't last long before it will be broken. Perhaps someone started it. The scene suddenly became lively. Mom, which formation do you think is better? Li Chengshuo's words made the scene instantly silent, and everyone looked over. Jiang Fengwu said the answer in his mind, the 100 Miles Water Formation. Why? This formation is mediocre in all aspects, and there is no outstanding advantage. Li Chengshuo instantly remembered the overview of this formation, and asked with a puzzled look on his face. Jiang Fengwu shook his head and laughed, saying, for the formations that will not be moved or modified for many years, we should not only focus on the present, but also pay attention to the future. The Bailey Shuai's formation does not seem to have any advantages, but in the Jade Slip, there is a fourth level formation that is passed down from generation to generation. When the time comes, we only need to add some new formation flags and formation plates to upgrade the formation, which can save a lot of materials. Although there is no specific description of this formation in the Jade Slip, it is not difficult to see the characteristics of this formation called Bailey Thick Earth Water Phase Formation from the name alone. Thick Earth means that the defense will not be too bad, and Water Phase means that the formation is unpredictable. But the fourth level formation is too far away for us, isn't it? Although there is a suspicion of offending Jiang Fengwu, the island protection formation is of vital importance and cannot be neglected at all. The Shuai's formation is too bad. Jiang Fengwu's words make sense, but the prerequisite is that there must be a formation master of the nascent soul realm, otherwise it will be impossible to complete it. Don't worry, I came back this time because I have broken through the bottleneck and have the hope of becoming a nascent soul. I chose the Shuai's formation, so that we can easily get a fourth level formation at that time. These words were like thunder from a clear sky, shocking everyone for a long time. No wonder Jiang Fengwu chose the ordinary Shuai's formation. It turned out that he was confident that he could break through the nascent soul. In that case, let's do as the elder said. Everyone nodded in agreement. Since we can set up a fourth level mountain protection formation in the near future, why waste too much time and money on the third level formation? Everyone reached a consensus on the goal. Jiang Fengwu allocated the formation flags and formation plates they were going to refine according to their personal abilities, and ended the meeting. Mom, is what you just said true? Are you really going to break through the nascent soul? Even if Li Chengshuo lowered his voice, he couldn't hide his excitement. Of course, how could I lie about such an important matter? Chapter 541 Recovery. The news that Jiang Fengwu was about to break through the nascent soul spread among the clan members at the fastest speed. Everyone was talking about it, as if they had received a shot of cardiotonic. The atmosphere became hot and excited. Sister-in-law Jiayu, are those words spread within the family true? Li Zhirui also came to verify it. Jiang Fengwu nodded and said, it's true. I broke through the shackles not long ago. This time I came back and planned to retreat. Seeing Li Zhirui's anxious face, Jiang Fengwu immediately guessed her thoughts and said without hesitation, I used a very risky method. If you are not careful, you may lose your life. Therefore, I don't recommend you to do this. Between life and death, one careless move will really lead to death. If Jiang Fengwu didn't have many life-saving methods in her hands, she would not dare to make such a crazy move. You are still young now, there is no need to be so anxious, but looking at Li Zhirui's expression, Jiang Fengwu knew in her heart that she didn't listen to her words. In this regard, Jiang Fengwu didn't say anything else. She had reminded her of what she should remind her. There was nothing she could do if the other party didn't believe it. After Li Zhirui said goodbye, Zhang Fengwu began to comprehend the Bailey Water Marsh Formation, striving to complete the arrangement of the island protection formation as soon as possible, so that she could withdraw and go into seclusion. The sun rose and the moon set, and time passed. Soon it was 3 months later. On this day, the Bailey Water Marsh Formation presided over by Zhang Fengwu was successfully arranged. The reason why it took so long was mainly due to the lack of some materials. It took more than a month just to wait for these spiritual materials. As the last spell slipped from Zhang Fengwu's fingertips, a dark blue water curtain slowly formed, protecting the entire clan, greatly enhancing the sense of security of the clan members. It feels like the air has become much cleaner, and the temperature has become more suitable. Not all of the clan members are cultivators. There are also a large number of mortals who serve the cultivators, as well as children who have not yet tested their spiritual roots. Many clan members have this feeling, and they all looked up at the water curtain in surprise. They didn't expect that this door would have such a function. The original water marsh formation did not have these functions. They were all added and modified by Zhang Fengwu later, in order to create a good living environment. It seems to be quite successful now. While the clansmen were still discussing the formation, Zhang Fengwu had quietly returned to the cave, ready to start a journey of retreat and breakthrough. Mom, Dad and brother are still in retreat. Are you going to retreat now? Li Chengshuo said reluctantly. The reason why Li Chengsheng has not appeared is that he is in retreat. After the war, he felt a loosening of his realm. After reporting to Li Zhirui, he returned to the cave and began to retreat, wanting to strike while the iron is hot and break through the golden elixir in one fell swoop. However, Li Chengsheng still thought that the formation of the elixir was too simple. Now it has been almost a year, and he has not made any movement. Yes, I plan to break through the nascent soul as soon as possible. At that time, the 4th level island protection formation will be set up. Not to mention that Wanxin Island is impregnable, but the defense will definitely be 2 or 3 levels higher than before. Even if they encounter a situation like Shunli Mountain again, the Li family will be able to deal with it more calmly. Then you can rest assured to retreat. When Dad comes out of retreat, I will tell him that you are back. She is like a family keeper. No matter how others come and go, Li Chengshuo will be there. You should also practice well. After giving a word of advice, Zhang Fengwu walked into the room. As the formation was activated, Zhang Fengwu began a long retreat. I think sister-in-law Jiu is in retreat now, Li Zhirui murmured to herself. Ever since she knew the process of Zhang Fengwu's breakthrough, she has been thinking about it and was very moved. Li Zhirui certainly knew how dangerous this method was, but compared with being able to break through the nascent soul, what were these dangers? It was just that the current situation of the Li family had tripped her up and prevented her from leaving. Li Zhirui and Zhang Fengwu were both in retreat, and Li Zhixun was traveling outside. She was the only one in the late Jinden stage on the island. If she left, if she encountered any danger, Li Chengru and others alone might not be able to deal with it. So even if Li Zhirui was in turmoil, she could only suppress it and wait for Li Zhirui or Zhang Fengwu to come out of retreat. The years passed in the cave, and 3 years had passed between spring and autumn. At this point, all the tribesmen knew that Li Zhirui's words were actually lies to comfort them, and his injuries were not insignificant. Fortunately, after a long period of treatment, Li Zhirui's injuries had healed, and he was now officially starting to practice in retreat. However, in order to dispel the uneasiness in the tribesmen's hearts, Li Zhirui showed up as soon as he recovered from his injuries. Ancestor, there are only a few 4th level treasure pills that the family has accumulated before. After a while, I'm afraid we won't be able to deliver enough treasure pills to the Nanya Chamber of Commerce. After showing up, Li Zufang came to the door as soon as possible. Li Zhirui frowned. The promise he made to the Nanya Chamber of Commerce was really a pitfall for the family and himself. But at that time, Li Zhirui couldn't think of any better way, and if he didn't pay a price, how could the Nanya Chamber of Commerce help? I understand. I will start refining the precious pill in the near future. Li Zufang also talked about some changes in the family in recent years. The most noteworthy one is that the 3rd level spiritual vein that has integrated the essence of the 4th level spiritual vein has been promoted, and the spiritual energy of the clan has reached a higher level. After that, he said goodbye and left very tactfully. Then, Li Zhirui had time to meet Li Chengsheng and Li Chengshuo. Shenger has broken through the golden elixir, Not bad. About a year ago, Li Chengsheng encountered his own golden elixir thunder tribulation. Because he did not take Xian King Dan and Jinzi Dan to assist, the whole process looked very thrilling. Fortunately, Li Chengsheng's foundation was deep enough, and he finally broke through the thunder tribulation and became a golden elixir real person. At the same time, he successfully awakened a heaven-given magical power Dar reprojection, absorbing the solar energy between heaven and earth. It turned into a round of fire essence sun wheel, and its attack power was very terrifying. And because he was a yang spiritual root, the elixir fire after the elixir was also more powerful than that of ordinary golden elixir cultivators. Li Zhirui was very happy about this. He took out a jade box and said, "This is the 4th level spiritual object I carefully prepared for you. It is perfect for making your own magic weapon." This spiritual object came from the warehouse of Shanli Mountain. He got it after exchanging it with contribution points. The sun essence meteorite is said to be a true fire from the sun that fell to the earth and was buried deep in the earth for countless years to form a natural treasure. "Thank you, Father." As soon as Li Chengsheng took it, he felt a sense of familiarity and closeness, and a smile appeared on his face. Chapter 542 Expansion. Li Chengsheng, who was standing by, didn't know what the spiritual object was, but he knew it was very extraordinary by looking at Li Chengsheng's reaction. His eyes were red with envy. "Don't worry, I've prepared it for you, too, but it's a gift for the Jindan, so you'd better keep it with me." Li Zhirui glanced at it and couldn't help but smile. Similarly, the spiritual objects prepared for Li Chengsheng were also obtained from the treasure house of Shanli Mountain. It has to be said that it is really worthy of being a great power that has been passed down for thousands of years. There are countless precious spiritual objects in this treasure house alone. In addition to the gifts selected for the 2 brothers and sisters, Li Zhirui also selected a few spiritual objects for himself. When he has time, he will integrate them into his life magic weapon to consolidate the foundation of the magic weapon. In other words, Li Zhirui, who is rich and powerful, has such a huge contribution value. If it were other tribesmen, it would be impossible to exchange several precious 4th-level spiritual objects at one time. Hearing what Li Zhirui said, Li Chengsheng's mentality suddenly became peaceful. Since she also has it, what is there to be jealous of? It's just a matter of time. "Oh, by the way, Daddy, Mom is back, and she said she has a chance to break through to the nascent soul stage." Li Chengsheng suddenly remembered that there was another happy event that he hadn't told Li Zhirui, and he quickly added, "Really, this was indeed a surprise to Li Zhirui. Not only because the strength of the Li family had greatly improved after Zhang Fengwu's breakthrough, but also because her lifespan was extended again, so she could accompany him for a longer time. The lifespan of the Golden Core is only 500 years, but the nascent soul has doubled. Zhang Fengwu is only 200 to 300 years old now, and after the breakthrough, she still has 700 to 800 years of life. If she can go one step further, she can live even longer. If conditions permit, who would be willing to walk alone on the road of seeking? This is indeed a great happy event," Li Zhirui said excitedly. "After Fengwu breaks through, we can take this opportunity to hold the Grand Nascent Soul ceremony, invite all vassal forces to participate, and show our strength." From Li Zhufen, Li Zhirui knew that many vassal forces now only respect the Li family on the surface. Especially when he hadn't shown up for several years, some of the stronger forces or those far away from Banyan Island began to pretend to obey but secretly disobey. If it wasn't for the uncertainty of whether Li Zhirui had fallen, perhaps what happened to Qingshan sect would soon happen to the Li family. Therefore, the Li family needs to find a reason to suppress them, or solve them directly. Of course, if the latter is chosen, it will have a very bad impact on the reputation of the Li family. Even if the other party is wrong first. After all, when the rabbit dies, the fox mourns, and the creatures of the same kind feel sad. Many forces will worry about the Li family and will take action against them sooner or later. But it's still too far to think about these things now. After all, no one knows how long it will take Zhang Fengwu to really take this step. "Okay, you all go and get busy." Li Zhirui sent the 2 away casually, and after returning to the room, he went directly into the space. Looking at the various spiritual objects in good order, Li Zhirui was filled with relief. Fortunately, he accepted Hu Gan, Hu Zhuan, and Hu Mu. Otherwise, during his long healing, the various spiritual objects planted in the space would probably grow in a mess. Although the mysterious power of the space made it impossible for the spiritual objects to die, The difference between careful care and wild growth was obvious. Thank you for your hard work during this period. The three Hugan monsters shook their heads repeatedly. Although they were very tired, they also gained a lot. Every day, they had enough spiritual objects to use. Their cultivation speed was much better than that in the outside world, where they were in danger of losing their lives. Are there any new discoveries? The question was whether there were any fourth-level fenki grasses and other mutated spiritual objects. Unfortunately, the three Hugan monsters shook their heads. Alice. Don't be impatient, Li Zhirui reminded himself. After all, many spiritual objects have evolved after countless years. Although the space can speed up the growth of spiritual objects and greatly shorten this time, it is still not a simple matter to make spiritual objects mutate, especially benign mutations. Xiao Kang, do you want to go out and play? Xiao Kang, who is already in the late stage of foundation building, just flew in front of Li Zhirui at this time. His foundation is already strong enough, and it's time to prepare for the breakthrough to the third level. Staying in the space is obviously not a good idea, because you can't pass the tribulation. Before, Xiao Kang was not allowed to go out, firstly because Li Zhirui was not strong enough to protect such a precious true dragon bloodline, and secondly because Xiao Kang was naughty and liked to do some messy things. In other words, he liked to die. At that time, Xiao Kang's own strength was very poor. If he died a little, it would be very likely that he would really die. If you want to go out, you can follow me. Li Zhirui looked at Hugan beside him. No, let's stay in the space. But what Li Zhirui didn't expect was that the three monsters Hugan were not very willing to leave the secret realm. They wanted to improve their cultivation as soon as possible. Okay, since they wanted to make progress, Li Zhirui couldn't disagree. Right, in the next few months, Li Zhirui spent most of his time on refining the fourth-level treasure pill. After accumulating 3 years of weight, he entered the room again and began to retreat to break through. This retreat did not last too long. It only took about a year for Li Zhirui to successfully break through to the middle stage of the nascent soul. After coming out of retreat, Li Zhirui became idle and didn't know what to do for a while. After some investigation, he was sure that he and the Li family would do something for a long time. That is to expand Wangxin Island. When Wangxin Island was originally called Daring Island, Li Zhirui moved many nearby islands to expand the area of the family's homeland. Later, Li Shiking, Li Shilian and others also spent a lot of time and energy on this matter. But even so, with the rapid development of the Li family, the area of Wangxin Island is still a little insufficient. It's okay for the cultivators. The area of 100 miles can accommodate the current clansmen. But the living area of the secular clansmen is gradually becoming crowded. According to the current situation, it will take less than 10 years for Wangxin Island to support so many mortals, and they must be diverted at that time. There are two ways to solve this problem. The first is to move the excess secular clansmen to other places, but it is only a temporary solution. The other way is to expand the area of Wangxin Island. However, the islands within a radius of several hundred miles of Wangxin Island have long been merged by the Li family, so they have to find a suitable island from afar. From this incident, Li Zhirui saw something quite interesting. That is, by moving the island, Jinden monks can adapt faster and better, and it can also hone their own mana. Chapter 543 Deduction. Get up, above the boundless sea, a Jinden monk in red moved his 10 fingers quickly, and a series of spiritual lights shot out continuously. With this order, the island in front of him, which was only 20 to 30 miles in size, was slightly raised from the sea. Then, under his drive, the island slowly moved on the sea like a huge black turtle. The magic power poured out like a torrent, and even with the spiritual pills to replenish him, he only lasted for 3 days. But before he finished casting the spell, another Jinden monk who had been waiting here took over the control of the island and continued to drive it towards Wangxin Island. After dozens of days, with a crashing roar, the earth trembled slightly, like a precursor to the earth dragon turning over, but the mortals on the island did not panic at all. Because they had been accustomed to it for a long time, and they also knew that this was a monk from the family who was performing the island-moving magic. In the south of Wangxin Island, Li Zhirui also drove an island of dozens of miles in size towards the family. For him, this island was not too strenuous, but there was no way. This was already the largest island nearby. It was strange to say that in the offshore area, it seemed that it was rare to see islands hundreds of miles in size, and most of them were small islands of dozens of miles. Like the Big Banyan Island that was 300 miles long from north to south and more than 150 miles wide from east to west, as well as the big islands such as Hongshan and Jiuquan in the east, it can be said that they were extremely rare. Further, all the islands within a radius of 300 miles have been emptied by the family. Li Chengsheng's voice was tired, but his whole demeanor was much better. Moreover, his aura was restrained, and it was impossible to tell that he had just broken through the giant in for only a few years. This was the result of training through island moving so fast. Li Zhirui was a little surprised, but after thinking about it carefully, it was indeed the case. After all, the Li family started moving islands a long time ago. This time, there was just a specific organization. The smaller islands were moved by Li Chengsheng and other giant and cultivators, and the larger islands were moved by Li Zhirui himself. After more than half a year, within a radius of hundreds of miles, there were no other islands except Wongsan Island. All the islands that moved here were integrated into the north and south sides of Wongsan Island, because the east and west sides were not suitable for expansion. The west side was close to the mainland, but the Li family had intended to isolate it from the mainland, which could effectively prevent some diseases from spreading to Wongsan Island. The east side was close to the Infinite Sea, which was the territory of the millions of water monsters of the Sea Clan. Not to mention the current Li family, even if the strength was increased tenfold, it would be impossible to gain a foothold in the Infinite Sea. After all, the contract signed between the Sea Clan and the human race only stipulated that the fourth-level monsters could not enter the offshore area, but could not control the Infinite Sea. How much has the area of Wongsan Island expanded? Li Zhirui looked at Li Zufeng. It has only expanded by less than 500 miles in total. Moreover, most of the areas were places with thin spiritual energy and were not suitable for cultivators. Li Zhirui didn't care about this, because these places were given to the secular clans to live in. However, if you want to migrate people from their homeland, you can't just rely on forced regulations, you have to give some benefits. It was impossible for Li Zhirui to do these little things personally. He only needed to speak out his ideas, and Li Zufeng and others would execute them. Let's put an end to the island relocation. The additional 500 miles of land could last for several decades. If it was still not enough, they would have to move to a more distant island. After the island relocation was completed, Li Zhirui entered the alchemy room. This time, he not only refined the Azure Sky Pill and the Red Sun Pill, but also wanted to create a new fourth-level pill formula. Although the quality of the two pills was constantly improving, Li Zhirui's body inevitably developed a certain drug resistance over the years. Although it was not too serious, it would be too late to take action when it became serious. In the inheritance jade slips of Mingdao sect, there were several fourth-level pill formulas, and even fifth-level pill formulas. But the problem was that Mingdao sect was a sect thousands of years ago. After the situation changed, the spiritual medicines they had at that time might not be available now. More importantly, the value of the fourth-level spiritual seeds was more precious than a pill formula. Li Zhirui also took advantage of people's greed, threatened with evidence, and bribed a large amount of resources to obtain two kinds of spiritual seeds from Nanya Chamber of Commerce in Zhuanfa Pavilion. He wanted to recreate this incident, but the problem was that the people he contacted back then had either died or were no longer on the spiritual object transportation line. The price to pay to reconnect was no less than that of the past. But the most important thing was that the current shopkeepers of the two families were all self-disciplined people, and the Li family was unable to catch evidence from them, or the things they desired. In fact, there were indeed some spiritual objects in the several pill recipes recorded in the inheritance jade slips that Li Zhirui, the master of alchemy, had never heard of. With his current knowledge, he didn't know, so it was likely that they were either extremely rare and precious, or had long been extinct. Therefore, Li Zhirui could only create a new pill recipe based on the fourth-level spiritual objects owned by his family. Fortunately, the treasure house of Shanli Mountain was plundered, otherwise it would be impossible to create a new pill recipe with the fourth-level spiritual objects of the Li family. You know, Li Zhirui had been working on the fourth-level elixir formula a long time ago, but because of the spiritual object, he could not see any chance of success, and finally had to give up. But even so, it is a very difficult thing to deduce the elixir formula. Especially this is a fourth-level elixir formula. Li Zhirui estimated that it would be impossible to succeed in less than 10 years. Sure, what are you borrowing so many contribution points for? Li Chengsheng looked at Li Chengshu, who was borrowing contribution points from him. and couldn't help frowning. You know, as a formation master, Li Chengshuo's talent is not as good as their mother, but it is not too bad. So he can earn a lot of contribution points every year. Over the years, it is definitely more than him. But now she actually asked him to borrow. I plan to travel outside, and these contribution points are used to exchange for talismans and elixirs. Li Chengshuo told the truth. Are you trying to imitate your mother's behavior? Li Chengsheng frowned, with disapproval in his eyes. That's right, Li Chengshuo didn't deny it. There was nothing to deny. He said frankly, my cultivation has been stagnant for too long. If it continues like this, I don't know when I can break through, so I plan to give it a try. Li Chengsheng was silent after hearing this. He didn't know how to persuade him. Could he say something like, you are still young? Don't worry, just practice with peace of mind, and you will be able to break through one day? This would only give people a sense of pity for talking without any pain. Chapter 544 10 years. Moreover, if that were the case, there wouldn't be so many cultivators who stopped at the foundation building stage and died without breaking through the golden elixir stage. This is the contribution points I have accumulated over the years. You can take it all. Li Chengsheng handed over his identity jade card. Thank you, brother. After that, Li Chengshuo took the jade card, transferred the contribution points to himself, and planned to leave. Are you going to tell father about this? Li Chengshuo paused and said, it's better not to tell him, so as not to worry him. More importantly, she was afraid that Li's heir would not want her to take risks after knowing it. Li Chengsheng saw Li Chengshuo's concerns and wanted to persuade her, but when he thought that she already had the means of saving her life given by her father, he kept silent and watched her leave. A few days later, Li Chengsheng left Wangxin Island quietly. But her whereabouts, which she thought were hidden, had actually been noticed by Li Zhirui. Behind her, Li Zhirui silently watched Li Chengshuo's back as he left. The reason why he didn't expose her was to respect her decision. But Li Zhirui didn't expect that half a month later, Li Zhirui would also leave Wangxin Island to go out for training. Are you influenced by Feng Wu? Li Zhirui frowned and said, this method is too dangerous. It's not the right way. Moreover, it doesn't mean that everyone will have some insights when they are between life and death. It is very likely that they will take the risk of falling, but in the end they will not gain anything, and they may even die. Besides, you have been in seclusion for so many years, and I think you have gained something. There is no need to take such risks, Li Zhirui persuaded earnestly. But seeing that Li Zhirui was silent, he knew that the other party had made up his mind and he could not persuade him. Then go and try it. Li Zhirui gave a few bottles of elixirs for healing and restoring mana, nothing else. The 4th level talisman in his hand was divided into a large part after he broke through the nascent soul, and then gave it to Li Zhixun and others. How could there be any left? Thank you, brother Jiu. Li Zhirui gratefully accepted the elixir, and after a while, he said goodbye and left. Alice, Li Zhirui shook his head slightly and turned back to the alchemy room. Since the outside world affairs are so annoying, he might as well ignore them and concentrate on deducing his recipe. After many attempts, Li Zhirui finally determined that the 7-color cloud fruit is the main medicine, and the red fruit, king and other spiritual objects are auxiliary medicines. It can refine a 4th level treasure pill that increases mana and yangazes the soul. Of course, this recipe is only a good combination of medicinal properties, and the effect is also inferred by Li Zhirui based on his many years of experience in alchemy. The specific amount of spiritual medicine, the actual situation, etc., still need to be verified in practice. And this step will consume a lot of spiritual medicine. Even with a blessing of space, Li Zhirui is a little overwhelmed and has to rely on the power of his family. The years in the cave are unknown. 8 or 9 years later, Li Zhirui successfully refined the first new 4th level treasure pill. The resources consumed during this period are unknown. If it is used to cultivate monks, it may be possible to cultivate several monks in the late stage of foundation building. And these monks are still of average qualifications. Fortunately, hard work pays off, and Li Zhirui finally succeeded, and did not let down his efforts and dedication over the years. Because it is based on the 7-color cloud fruit, it is called the cloud pill. Taking it can increase mana and improve the soul. As for the effect, it is not as good as the advantages of the 2 treasure pills, but its disadvantages are better than them. It is a mediocre and comprehensive elixir without advantages or disadvantages. In the past 10 years, the development speed of the Li family has been amazing. There are more than 10 or 20 foundation-building cultivators every year. Although there are fewer golden pills, 1 or 2 people can still appear every few years. After 10 years of accumulation, the Li family has 6 more golden pills. It is precisely because of these people that the Li family can truly control more territory instead of letting it go. In particular, the large number of spiritual veins that originally belonged to the Shanli mountain were closed because of their lack of strength before, and they only sowed some spiritual medicine seeds, and they could not be effectively developed at all. In fact, there are more than 6 people who have crossed the tribulation and broken through, but even with the Shianqing pill and Jinsei pill, there have been several failures. Among them, Li Chengshuo successfully broke through 3 years ago. She was one of the few giant cultivators who successfully broke through outside the clan and returned to the clan. The long time made many clan members forget Zhang Fengwu, who broke through in seclusion. Li Zhirui kept it in mind and came to check the situation every month. Unfortunately, on this day, as usual, there was no movement in the cave. Sure enough, even if you see the threshold, it is not an easy thing to cross it. Li Zhirui shook his head and turned away. But not long after he left, Zhang Fengwu in the quiet room suddenly opened his eyes. Finally took the first step. The next thing to do is to adjust the state and welcome the thunder tribulation in the near future. At this time, Li Zhirui entered the space. You mean, the 5-element jade peach is about to mature? This was when Li Zhirui went to find the subsequent exercises of the Wanling Sutra that year, and after destroying a sect, he got a 4th level spiritual plant. It takes 30 years to bloom, 30 years to bear fruit, and another 30 years to mature, about 90 years in total, but only 36 jade peaches are produced each time. 35 of the jade peaches belong to the 5 elements, 7 of each, and the remaining jade peach has all 5 elements, containing several times more pure spiritual energy than other jade peaches, and even has some benefits for breaking through the spirit transformation. It is described in the records that it takes 10 years of hard practice for Yuan Ying's Henjin to eat a jade peach. In fact, Li Zhirui has obtained the 5-element jade peach for more than 90 years. However, because the spiritual vein of the sect was not of sufficient grade at the time, the jade peach tree lacked foundation. If it was forced to bear fruit, it would further deplete its foundation. Therefore, in the first few decades after obtaining the jade peach tree, Li Zhirui deliberately controlled it and did not let it bloom and bear fruit. After the jade peach tree was fully recovered, Li Zhirui released the restrictions and handed it over to the 3 tiger demons to take care of it. Now it is finally about to mature. When the jade peaches are ripe, you pick them and seal them in a jade box. When Fengwu breaks through, you can use them to entertain some distinguished guests. Got it? They weren't already very familiar with this kind of thing. Hu Gan, you have already reached the 3rd level. Do you want to go into seclusion and break through to the nascent soul? Hu Gan, who has a lot of resources, will naturally not be too slow in cultivation. The realms of Hujuan and Humu are a little different, only in the late 3rd level. However, the demon race has a long lifespan, so they still have enough time to cultivate. Thank you for your gift, my lord. Hu Gan's facial features were a little distorted with excitement. Breaking through to the 4th level can be said to be Hu Gan's dream, a wish that he has been thinking about day and night, and now he finally has a chance to achieve it. Chapter 545 Dangerous. You should practice well, and I will also fully support you when the time comes. Seeing Hujuan and Humu's eyes full of envy, Li Zhirui promised with a smile. Of course, he knew that supporting a 3rd level monster to break through the 4th level would consume a huge amount of resources. But compared with the benefits brought by a 4th level monster, these resources are nothing. Moreover, the lives of Hu Gan and others all depend on Li Zhirui's thoughts, so there is no need to worry about their betrayal. Brother Jiu, come out quickly, Sister Jiu is about to break through the nascent soul. Daquing's urgent voice sounded in his mind. Hearing this, Li Zhirui didn't care about talking to the 3 monsters, and hurriedly left. As soon as he came out, he noticed the violent fluctuations of spiritual energy around him, and looked at the closed door of the quiet room with worry. The nascent soul pill is still in his hand. At the beginning, because Zhang Fengwu had to go out for training, the nascent soul pill was extremely precious, so it was naturally impossible to give it to her for safekeeping. But in this way, this situation will occur now. Just when Li Zhirui was considering whether to forcibly deliver the Huaing Baodan to Zhang Fengwu before the heavenly tribulation came, she opened the door herself. Fengwu, Take it. Li Zhirui hurriedly handed the jade box over, and then hurriedly evacuated. Zhang Fengwu was relieved when she saw this scene. She risked breaking the state of cultivation, just to bet whether Li Zhirui had come out of retreat. Fortunately, she bet right. Not long after Li Zhirui left, rolling dark clouds suddenly appeared in the sky, stretching for more than 10 miles. Thunder roared and lightning flashed, which looked terrifying. Such a huge movement naturally attracted all the tribesmen on the island, and they surrounded them in several circles. The family is going to give birth to the second Yuanying Zhenjin. This Yuanying thunder tribulation is too terrible. It is dozens of times more terrifying than the golden elixir thunder tribulation. Some tribesmen were excited and full of expectations, while others were worried. But no matter who they were, they all had good wishes and hoped that Zhang Fengwu could successfully overcome the tribulation. That direction is, in Redwood Market and nearby seas, cultivators saw the eye-catching calamity clouds. The Li family of Banyan Island, looking at the scale, it seems that it is not a golden elixir thunder calamity, but a Yuanying thunder calamity. Too terrible. The Li family has only been developed for a few years, and the second Yuanying Zhenjin is about to be born. The casual cultivators of Redwood Market flew towards the Li family's land, wanting to observe the thunder calamity up close. Li Zhirui did not stop them, but did not allow them to get too close, otherwise they would be killed. Why did this thunder calamity accumulate power for so long? Li Zhirui felt more and more uneasy. When he broke through that ear, the first thunder calamity fell quickly, but now there was no movement. Li Zhirui looked up at the calamity cloud, lightning and thunder, as if brewing something very terrifying. Rumble. The first thunder calamity fell from the sky like a meteor. The thunder calamity swallowed Zhang Fengwu whole, and the terrifying and violent energy lingered around her. The lightning was blinding, and the tribesmen with lower cultivation couldn't even open their eyes. Even Li Zhirui felt his eyes sore, but in order to see Zhang Fengwu's condition clearly, he could only endure the discomfort. Fortunately, Zhang Fengwu reacted quickly enough and made timely defenses, barely withstanding this thunderbolt. Dad, why is Mom's thunderbolt so powerful? Li Chengshin, who was standing aside, keenly noticed that something was wrong. Li Zhirui shook his head, and he didn't know what the reason was. Logically speaking, the intensity of the thunderbolt is related to merit and karma. Regardless of whether Zhang Fengwu has merit, he should not have karma. You know, ordinary killing is not considered karma. It is a part of the law of the jungle and the law of nature. Unless you kill creatures indiscriminately and destroy the world, karma will be generated. Li Zhirui recalled the appearance of Zhang Fengwu when he first saw her. Although there was a lot of evil spirits around her, it was the legacy of killing the demon cultivators. She was tough-minded and didn't look like a bloodthirsty person. After they became Taoist couples, Zhang Fengwu did not leave Banyan Island for decades to gain experience. Then she went to King Lian's house to gain experience and look for the opportunity to break through the nascent soul stage. Could it be that this time, she created a lot of karma? Li Zhirui suppressed his doubts in his heart. Now the most important thing is whether Zhang Fengwu can survive the thunder tribulation. Everything else is trivial. The first thunder tribulation had just dissipated, and the second thunder tribulation followed. Zhang Fengwu, who was already struggling, now became very embarrassed, but her eyes were full of determination and unwillingness to admit defeat. She finally reached the nascent soul stage, and she would never allow failure. Come again. Zhang Fengwu stood proudly with her head held high, and shouted hoarsely. Boom! The thunder tribulation seemed to have a spirit. After being provoked, the tribulation cloud seemed to boil. Countless thunders surged and merged, and finally turned into a huge thunder dragon. Its huge eyes stared at Zhang Fengwu and jumped down. The thunder tribulation merged, and it was the remaining 3 thunderbolts that turned into this giant dragon. How is this possible? Li Zhirui's face changed drastically and he shouted. Even now, he had to be extremely careful when facing these 3 fused thunderbolts, because if he was not careful, he would be seriously injured and fall. The weaker cultivators, even at such a distance, were also greatly affected, and many of them were pale. It's over, someone suddenly said this, which immediately resonated with everyone. Although they didn't know the specific situation of the thunder dragon, this extremely terrifying aura clearly told them how terrifying it was. I will never admit defeat. Zhang Fengwu's eyes flashed with a trace of blood and determination. Various elixirs were madly poured into her mouth. The complex medicinal effects filled the meridians in her body. The piercing pain made her feel miserable, but also made her particularly energetic. Especially the infant transformation pill, the majestic mana was difficult to tame, not to mention the mana transformed by other elixirs. Enduring the severe pain of tearing his body apart, the mana in his body rushed down like a torrent, and a huge black tortoise appeared in the air. With its tortoise and snake heads looking up to the sky and roaring, biting the thunder dragon. Zhang Fengwu sat cross-legged under the black tortoise, and continuously injected mana into its body, offsetting and weakening the power of the thunder dragon. It seemed that the situation was very good. As long as he continued to persevere, the thunder dragon would eventually be worn out, but Li Zhirui never let go of his worries. Because compared with the robbery thunder that attracted a large amount of spiritual energy, Zhang Fengwu's mana was nothing at all. Obviously, Zhang Fengwu also knew that if she continued like this, she would definitely die, so she divided a little of her mind and took out the magic tools she often used from the stored ring. Boom boom, a series of explosions sounded. In addition to her life magic weapon, Zhang Fengwu detonated all other commonly used magic tools. Chapter 546 Life History. This approach did greatly weaken the power of the Thunder Dragon and relieve Zhang Fengwu's pressure, but it also caused serious injuries to her. You know, refining a magic weapon requires leaving a trace of spiritual consciousness, because only in this way can the magic weapon be controlled. Zhang Fengwu detonated the magic weapon, and his spiritual consciousness had no time to retract. Spiritual consciousness is an extension of the soul. Therefore, under the influence of the self-explosion of multiple magic weapons, Zhang Fengwu's soul suffered a considerable impact. Zuanwu took advantage of the opportunity to enter, and the turtle and snake heads fiercely bit off a large piece of flesh and blood from the thunder dragon, constantly attacking the wound. Roar! The thunder dragon roared angrily, but it became weaker and weaker, and finally broke into dots of lightning and turned into a gorgeous firework. Hold it! The tribesmen who were watching from a distance cheered for a while after seeing the thunder dragon gradually dissipate, as if Zhang Fengwu had successfully survived the thunder tribulation. But Li Zhirui's face was as gloomy as water. Zhang Fengwu's previous actions were tantamount to drinking poison to quench thirst. She resisted the attack of thunder, but in the final catastrophe of the inner demon, with her soul damaged, could she still stick to her heart of Taoism? At this time, Zhang Fengwu had fallen into the illusion of the inner demon. Fenger, get up quickly. Today is the day for testing the spirit. You can't delay it. A gentle female voice woke up Zhang Fengwu from his sleep. Zhang Fengwu suddenly stood up from the bed, his tender face full of fear, and tears in his eyes. Fenger, are you having a nightmare again? It's okay, those are nightmares, they won't really happen. The woman hugged her in her arms with pity and patted her back gently. After a long time, Zhang Fengwu regained his composure. Mom, I'm fine, let's go. Soon, the mother and daughter came to the place where the spirit roots were tested. Because there were not many people taking the test, it was their turn soon. Fenger, after entering the formation, don't think about anything else, just wait quietly. Not long after, two single spiritual lights, one green and one blue, rose into the sky. Dual spiritual roots, or different dual spiritual roots. The elder in charge of testing the spiritual roots laughed wildly and said, ha 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 ha, my Zhang family finally gave birth to a genius. This incident alarmed all the senior leaders of the Zhang family, and at the same time issued a gag order, and focused on training Zhang Fengwu. Time passed quickly, and 10 years later in a blink of an eye, Zhang Fengwu had a good aptitude. Even if he didn't take many elixirs, he had cultivated to the 6th level of key training, only one step away from the late stage. In these 10 years, Zhang Fengwu occasionally had nightmares, but she had long been accustomed to it and didn't take it to heart. But the nightmare really came. It was an extremely ordinary day. Zhang Fengwu was practicing in the room, hoping to break through the late stage of key training as soon as possible. But a quick knock on the door instantly woke her up from her practice. Zhang Fengwu opened the door with an impatient look on his face and said, "What happened?" Knocking on the door so anxiously, "What if I go crazy?" "Fenger, go." The woman pulled her towards the center of the clan land with an anxious look on her face. Before she could react, she and several other tribesmen of the same generation, following the elders, appeared in a dense forest outside the tribe. It really happened. It really happened. Zhang Fengwu seemed to be in great pain. He collapsed to the ground, twisted and distorted, and screamed in pain, "No. No, I am now breaking through the nascent soul. The previous scenes were all my childhood experiences." Snap! The moment Zhang Fengwu understood, The entire illusion disappeared like a broken lens. Success. Li Zhirui, who had already given up hope, was stunned when he saw the changes in front of him. How could it be so sudden? The rolling dark clouds instantly turned into a rich and pure spiritual energy, and turned into a huge cloud column, which fell from the sky and sank into Zhang Fengwu's body. Under the irrigation of this magic power, the golden elixir in Zhang Fengwu's body gradually turned into the appearance of a pure nascent soul. Success! Success! The second Yuanying's engine of the family was born. The clan members cheered and seemed extremely excited. What a fluke, Zhang Fengwu said bitterly after absorbing the spiritual energy. In the illusion, she seemed to be blinded by the inner demon, just like a real 5-year-old girl. This should be because Zhang Fengwu's soul was damaged, and the inner demon who was good at illusion and controlling the 5 senses seized the opportunity, thus blinding her consciousness, making it easier for her to sink into the illusion and unable to extricate herself. The nightmares that Zhang Fengwu had were actually the resistance of her own consciousness. If she had not been stimulated by the death of all the clan members, she would probably not have been able to wake up from the illusion. Zhang Fengwu originally came from a small foundation-building family. She had a pair of parents who loved her. Because of her dual spiritual roots, she was also highly valued in the family. But this news was known by the Zhang family's mortal enemy. In order to prevent her from growing up, the enemy joined forces with several other families and launched a fierce attack on the Zhang family. Zhang Fengwu didn't know the result of the war at first. She only knew that the elders who protected her all died on the road. Without the protection of the elders, she was reduced to a casual cultivator in the middle stage of key training. During this period, she didn't know how many dangers she had experienced. Zhang Fengwu slowly climbed up from the bottom. When she was in the foundation building stage, she became the captain of the famous demon hunting team. Then she closed her eyes and formed a pill, and broke through by chance. After the breakthrough, the first thing she did was not to come to Banyan Island to find Li Zhirui, but to avenge the people who had died for hundreds of years. That day, Zhang Fengwu killed all the forces of the enemy, the Yan family, and more than 1,000 cultivators. If the mortals who were implicated were counted, there would be at least 5,000 people. Because these are small families, the territory is not large, so there will be many mortals living near the mountain gate of the clan, and the land will be used to a greater extent. But whether Zhang Fengwu did it intentionally or unintentionally, those mortals died because of her. Cultivators cannot slaughter mortals wantonly. Otherwise they will be punished. This is the iron law of heaven. The demon cultivators were dismissive of this because they were not afraid of this little karma of killing mortals, and they had special methods. The past is truly settled today, Zhang Fengwu murmured in a low voice, and others could not hear her words clearly. The heavenly tribulation, in addition to being a test for cultivators, is also a purification. If it succeeds, the previous karma will be written off, and if it fails, the soul will return to the underworld. In other words, the karma that Zhang Fengwu had accumulated before has now been cleared. Are you okay? Li Zhirui flew in front of Zhang Fengwu and asked with concern. It's okay. The spiritual energy of the tribulation also repaired a lot of injuries in my body. Zhang Fengwu smiled and shook his head, saying, I know you have a lot of doubts in your heart. After I consolidate my realm, I will tell you in detail. Okay, I'll wait for you, and I believe in you. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 547 Puppet. Is this a sign of the secret realm appearing? Li Chengshuo looked at the fluctuating space not far away and said to herself uncertainly. She had been away from Banyan Island for 4 or 5 years, but she had not found a chance to break through. Unexpectedly, she encountered a secret realm that appeared for the first time. The reason for this judgment is that if it were not the case, there must be cultivators waiting nearby, not just her. Although there are no cultivators now, the movement of the secret realm appearing is very obvious, which will definitely attract nearby cultivators. Unless she can cover up the movement of the secret realm appearing and not be discovered by others. But if she has this ability, how could she still be a foundation building cultivator now? There shouldn't be a Giant's Henren training nearby, right? Li Chengshuo's location is relatively remote. If she hadn't been chasing a monster, she wouldn't have come here. The monsters nearby are mostly second-level monsters, and Jinden cultivators should not look down on them. But if there really is a Jinden's Henren, then this secret realm may have nothing to do with her, and she may even be killed to silence her. Therefore, Li Chengshuo carefully hid herself, so that she could escape immediately if she saw that the situation was not good. Fortunately, until a few days later, when the secret realm was opened, only 30 or 40 foundation building monks came. Most of the monks came with their partners, naturally sticking together, and some monks, like Li Chengshuo, were alone, guarding against everyone. When the secret realm was opened, all the monks present used their means and flew towards the secret realm at the fastest speed. Li Chengshuo was slightly behind the crowd, and even the grade of the secret realm had not been determined. If this was only a first-level secret realm, then all the monks would not be able to enter. Fortunately, this situation did not occur, and the first monk entered the secret realm very smoothly. Seeing this scene, Li Chengshuo immediately sped up, instantly surpassed a crowd of monks, and became the first person to enter the secret realm. After the dizziness of the transmission subsided, Li Chengshuo carefully felt the spiritual energy around him, and after a moment, he murmured, "This should be a second-level secret realm. Although the spiritual energy is rich, it is slightly worse than the third-level spiritual vein." Unless she was unlucky and landed in the most barren place in the secret realm, this judgment was still accurate. After confirming again and again that this was indeed only a second-level secret realm, Li Chengshuo's expression was somewhat complicated, as if he was relieved and a little regretful. The second-level secret realm means safety, but there are definitely not as many opportunities as the third-level secret realm. Whoosh! Suddenly, there was a sound of breaking through the air behind him. Li Chengshuo reacted quickly and activated the defense talisman. At the same time, he sacrificed the magic weapon and looked in the direction of the attack. A second-level late black rock wildboar. Don't know whether to live or die? Li Chengshuo has not wasted his time in the past few years. His strength was honed in battle after battle. She held the moon ruler in her hand and waved it at the pig demon. A white moonlight quickly attacked. Roar! The pig demon seemed to feel threatened. With a roar, a huge rock fell from the sky, trying to smash the white silk, but it was penetrated and hit it hard. The pig demon had thick skin and flesh, but it still felt a heart-wrenching pain. At the same time, it also knew that it was no match for the opponent, so it turned around and fled towards the forest. Want to leave? It's too late. Li Chengshuo's mind moved, and Bailang easily caught up with the pig demon. After tying it up tightly, a nice needle suddenly pierced its heart. With a scream, the huge body fell down. After hurriedly collecting the valuables from the pig demon, Li Chengshuo pretended to leave the place quickly, but in fact she was hiding aside. The fighting was too noisy, which would definitely attract many monks, and she wanted to be the fisherman. After a while, several monks came here and saw the corpse of the pig demon. Do you want to chase? That person should have just left not long ago. Someone is coming. The monk with the strongest strength suddenly looked up at the sky. A ray of spiritual light fell in front of them in the blink of an eye. It was also a group of monks, but there were more people and stronger strength. Go! The group of monks who came first had a slight change of expression on their faces, and they wanted to drive the spirit boat away without saying a word. Everyone, don't leave in such a hurry. Unfortunately, another group of monks would not let them have their way, and several of them stopped the spirit ship. The difference in strength between you and me is not that big. If we really fight, the outcome is unpredictable. The most likely outcome is that both sides will suffer losses. This secret realm opportunity was wasted in vain. Dao, what you said makes sense, but unfortunately, your judgment was wrong at the beginning. After that, several spiritual lights flew out from his storage ring, and they turned out to be second-level puppets of various shapes, as many as a dozen. Puppet Master, the monk's face changed drastically, and he immediately abandoned his companions, sacrificed a flying sword, and only wanted to leave alone. Puppet Master is a very niche and extremely difficult cultivation skill. It requires extremely high control of mana and is very expensive. Unless you want the puppet you make yourself to be just a pile of useless scraps, you must use good spiritual objects. Of course, it is also possible to use the corpses of monks or monsters to make puppets, but this method is not adopted by the righteous path, and most of the puppeteers of the evil path use this method. I didn't expect that fellow Taoist still has some insights, so don't leave. After saying that, he controlled more than a dozen puppets and rushed towards the crowd. Together with the monks behind him, the strength crushed the opponent. Those monks didn't even have time to struggle and soon became corpses. Only the monk who abandoned his teammates lived a little longer, but he still died in the end. Li Chengshu, who was hiding on the side, didn't dare to breathe, for fear that he would be discovered by the other party. Too scary. She originally wanted to be a fisherman, but now she realized that she didn't have the strength at all. Fortunately, this hidden formation was made by Zhang Fengwu himself. Even the giant and monks could hide it, let alone these foundation-building monks. Li Chengshu originally thought that with his own strength, in this second-level secret realm, if not invincible in the world, it would at least be hard to find an opponent. But on the first day of entering the secret realm, she met a cultivator whose strength was far superior to hers. It was like a blow to the head, directly shattering the arrogance and complacency in her heart. After a long time, the puppeteer took the cultivators away. Li Chengshu did not show up immediately, but waited for half an hour to make sure that the other party would not come back. Then he withdrew the formation and left the place quickly. Time passed quickly, and soon it was the day when the secret realm was opened. It's only been 10 days, can we leave the secret realm? It seems that the time for the secret realm to be opened is not too long. Li Chengshu looked at the complicated and cumbersome formation in front of him, sighed helplessly, and said, I don't know if I can crack this formation before going out. Chapter 548 Blackstone. During these days in the secret realm, Li Chengshu had gained a lot of spiritual objects at the beginning, but she accidentally saw this black stone that was 3 meters in size and covered with array patterns. She originally wanted to put the black stone away and study it carefully after leaving the secret realm, but she found that she could not put it into the storage ring. This special situation immediately attracted Li Chengshu's attention. She wanted to study the array patterns, so she stopped here and stopped exploring the secret realm. But perhaps it was because she was not good at learning, or perhaps the array patterns were too profound. After comprehending for such a long time, Li Chengshu only studied a little array pattern related to space. The secret realm was about to close, and Li Chengshu had no choice but to use the image stone to record the array patterns on the black stone in their original form, and when she returned to the family, she would give it to her mother to comprehend. However, Li Chengshu did not leave for the rest of the time, but took the time to comprehend the black stone. After all, the feeling of comprehending with the image stone is different from that of comprehending with the entity, so of course she had to seize this only opportunity. Because they didn't know when the secret realm would open next time, and by then, Li Chengshu was confident that he had already achieved the golden core and couldn't enter the second-level secret realm. Li Chengshu was quietly comprehending the array pattern. But she never expected that a disaster would come from the sky. The puppeteer she saw at the beginning came to her alone, chasing and killing several monks. Dao, help. This demon wants to use our bodies to make puppets. They didn't know whether Zhang Fengwu could save them, but even if there was only a little hope, they didn't want to give up. As for whether Li Chengshu would be implicated, they didn't care so much. Li Chengshu looked at them coldly and said to the puppeteer, I'll leave now, I'm not a demon puppeteer. They ambushed me secretly, but they were not strong enough and were chased here by me, Wei Ningjin explained abruptly. Li Chengshu was stunned when he heard this, nodded lightly, and left the place as quickly as possible. And Wei Ningjin, who was speaking, was also stunned. He didn't understand why he had to explain. This was not his character. Because she was in a hurry to leave, Li Chengshu, who had no idea of the direction, suddenly came to the front of the towering mountains. Then she was surprised to find that there were many black stones with array patterns carved on them. The black stones here were smaller in area, about the size of a fist, and were blank. If it weren't for the fact that they couldn't be sent into the space artifact, Li Chengshu would have suspected that she had encountered something fake. Unfortunately, because the black stones couldn't be put into the storage ring, she couldn't take too many away. She barely filled a large bag and flew towards the secret door with the black stones. Hand over the treasure. 4 monks suddenly flew out from nowhere, surrounded Li Chengshu, and looked her up and down with obscene eyes. Li Chengshu was so disgusted that she immediately summoned the moon snake and a group of howling moon silver wolves to attack everyone first. The howling moon silver wolf she abducted that year has grown up. And the one she contracted has successfully become the wolf king, and can control the other silver wolves to fight. Although it requires a lot of resources, with a father who is a master of alchemy, Li Chengshu is not short of these things. The moon snake was the spirit beast she had contracted at the beginning. It was already in the late second stage. Maybe after Li Changshuo passed the tribulation and broke through, she could also break through. Those cultivators were no match for Li Changshuo at all. As soon as the battle started, they were suppressed and begged for mercy. How? Li Changshuo sneered. She would never let go of these cultivators who had bad intentions towards her. Without hesitation, she let the spirit beasts continue to attack and kill them as soon as possible. You forced us to do this. The four swallowed a red, pungent elixir. In an instant, they seemed to have broken through. They looked aggressive and their eyes were full of violence. Frenzy blood pill. Li Changshuo's face became solemn. As the daughter of an alchemy master, although she did not have the talent for alchemy, she still knew some special elixirs through osmosis. For example, the frenzy blood pill they were taking now could forcibly increase their strength by a small realm in a short period of time, and they were not afraid of pain and their injuries healed quickly, which was very difficult to deal with. Of course, the side effects, or the cost, are also very high. Even if those who take this pill don't die on the spot, they won't live long. Roar. The four of them roared in unison and pounced on Li Changshuo with agility. The moon snake and howling moon silver wolf attracted 2 monks away, and she could only deal with 2 insane monks alone. They were like zombies, not feeling pain, which brought great pressure to Li Changshuo. Unknowingly, the bottleneck that prevented her from going further was quietly broken. Li Changshuo didn't know this yet, and only wanted to kill the 2 people in front of him. Ouch! A silver wolf was accidentally injured. Li Changshuo didn't dare to delay any longer and directly activated the few third-level talismans. The powerful attack directly killed one of them. The balance was broken in an instant. The remaining 3 monks were also dealt with one by one. After quickly dealing with the battlefield, Li Changshuo left the place quickly. Passing by the black stone with array patterns on the way, Li Changshuo stayed for a few more days to help Silver Wolf treat his injuries. He also comprehended the array patterns, but gained little. Worried that the secret realm would be closed, she left with regret. However, she did not realize that a part of the black stone in the package she was carrying suddenly showed the same array patterns. Li Changshuo was extremely fast. In just a few hours, he flew to the exit of the secret realm and walked directly in. At the same time, the black stone behind her suddenly emitted a series of spiritual lights, and Li Changshuo, who was supposed to be teleported out, entered another passage that would teleport to an unknown place. Why hasn't she come out yet? Did she fall in the secret realm? Wei Ningjun looked at the slowly dispersing portal to the secret realm, feeling inexplicably anxious and uneasy. A fellow disciple beside him whispered, "Brother, the secret realm has been closed. The brothers who have not come out yet must have died. We should return to the sect and report this matter." Wei Ningjun's mood suddenly became much worse. His face was as cold as frost, and the temperature nearby seemed to have dropped by several degrees. The fellow disciples beside him were silent and their breathing slowed down a lot. "Let's go." It was not until Wei Ningjun took the lead to leave that everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Where's this place? After Li Changshuo was teleported out of the secret realm, he was shocked to find that he was not on the original territory. Looking around, he was surrounded by mountains, and there was only a road leading to the outside world in the northeast. Li Changshuo did not rush to leave the valley, but set up a formation to restore his state. Although she broke through the bottleneck in the secret realm, and the spiritual energy here was quite rich, it was an unfamiliar territory after all, and it was impossible to retreat here. Li Changshuo now just wanted to go out and find out where she was, and then rush back to Banyan Island for retreat. Chapter 549 Heart and Eyes. A few days later, Li Changshuo recovered from his injury and immediately left the valley. He randomly found a direction and sped along. It took him most of the day to see a tall and majestic fairy city. As soon as he entered the fairy city, he went straight to the grocery store and bought a nearby map to determine his location. I was actually teleported to the central region. Li Changshuo was stunned on the spot, his face full of shock, and his hands unconsciously clenched. "My fellow Taoist, be careful not to crush the jade slip," the shopkeeper reminded him hurriedly. After Li Changshuo came to his senses, he said embarrassedly, "What is the price of this map?" "I bought it." He took out more than 200 spirit stones and hurriedly left the store. Black stones. It must be because of those black stones, Li Changshuo confirmed his previous guess. After she left the secret realm, she noticed that the package she was carrying became much lighter. At that time, she had a vague guess in her heart, but she didn't know her location. She thought she was near the secret realm, so she didn't dare to be sure. But now, the central region where Li Changshuo is located is tens of thousands of miles away from the secret realm, which is definitely not something that a mere second-level secret realm can do. Although I don't know what the Black Stone is, it must be a very precious spiritual object that can teleport her to such a distant place. Fortunately, Li Changshuo hid the Black Stone in a hidden place because she felt that carrying a package into the city was too conspicuous. Otherwise, if there were cultivators in the fairy city who knew the goods and recognized the Black Stone, her fate would probably be very miserable. Li Changshuo wanted to dig out the Black Stone and then set off immediately to return to Banyan Island. Fortunately, reason prevailed and suppressed this impulse. With her current cultivation, it is impossible to cross tens of thousands of miles and go back safely. Not to mention that there are demon cultivators on the way. I should find a way to retreat now, and consider going home after breaking through the golden elixir. After making up his mind, Li Changshuo stayed in this fairy city temporarily, and after earning the last spiritual stone, he would rent a retreat cave on Banyan Island. Zhufen, how are the preparations for the nascent soul ceremony going? Li Zhirui asked. Have you bought all the spiritual objects for this nascent soul ceremony? From Li Zhirui to any member of the family, they all attach great importance to and look forward to it. Because it means that the Li family's strength has reached a higher level and they have the confidence to control this huge territory. Everything has been arranged, but I don't know when Patriarch Zhang will come out of retreat so that we can officially prepare for it and send out invitations, Li Zufang asked. Li Zhirui thought about it. After Zhang Fengwu broke through, he had been in retreat for 1 or 2 years. Even if the process of transcending the tribulation was not very smooth and he suffered some injuries, but with the restoration of spiritual energy after the tribulation and such a long period of treatment, there should be no big problems now. Soon, in the recent period, Li Zhirui suddenly remembered something and said, "Are there any outstanding members in this batch of tests?" Li Zufang heard this and shook his head awkwardly. A few members performed well, but they can't be called excellent. What the two of them were talking about was an event held not long ago. The family provided resources to allow all members of the family in the late stage of key training to test their talents and cultivation skills. In fact, the Li family had held this event a long time ago, but later for various reasons, it had not been held on a large scale for the second time. Until now, the Li family has greatly increased its strength and abundant resources, but in terms of cultivation skills, there is a lack of successors, so this matter was brought up again. And from then on, it became the norm of the family. Every member of the family who broke through to the late stage of key training could receive resources from the family to test his or her talent in a certain aspect. Of course, everyone only has 3 chances. Compared with the countless cultivation skills, 3 chances are indeed nothing, but you have to know that most forces do not have such benefits. The Li family has done very well in this regard. Now, because there are too many tribesmen in the late stage of key training, they have to be divided into several groups. Forget it, there are not so many tribesmen with good talents. Let's vigorously cultivate those tribesmen who perform well. Li Zhirui was mentally prepared for this, so he was not too disappointed. After finishing what he needed to explain, Li Zufang left. As the leader of the tribe, even though there are many elders to help share the work, he is still very busy and has almost no time to rest. Speaking of which, Xiao Kang, shouldn't you break through too? Li Zhirui turned his eyes to Xiao Kang who is clinging to the tree. 10 years ago, he was already in the late stage of the second stage. Now Zhang Fengwu has broken through to the nascent soul, but Xiao Kang has not made any movement. This made Li Zhirui feel very strange. At first, Li Zhirui thought that Xiao Kang had some problems, but no matter whether he asked him or checked it himself, he didn't find anything wrong. As time went by, Xiao Kang's intelligence improved a lot. Although he couldn't speak human words, he could understand human words. Roar, I also want to break through, but I can't sense the existence of the thunder tribulation. Alice, listening to the same answer countless times, Li Zhirui sighed helplessly. In fact, he had a vague guess in his heart, that is, as a dragon with a very high starting point, the road of cultivation should not be smooth. The so-called heaven is fair, that's it. Forget it, anyway, the dragon race has a long lifespan, and I am also quite wealthy. I can afford to support you, so there is no rush. Looking at the quiet room with the door closed, Li Zhirui got up and walked into the alchemy room. He wanted to refine a batch of 4th-level treasure pills. In addition to selling them, the high-quality treasure pills would be kept for himself and Zhang Fengwu to take. After so many years, the original agreement with the Nanya Chamber of Commerce has been completed for the most part. But there is one thing, the Li family played a little bit of a small mind. It was agreed before that all the territories of the Li family would only allow the Nanya Chamber of Commerce to operate. In fact, this approach is very bad, because it will lead to a monopoly. At that time, the Li family will be extremely dependent on the Nanya Chamber of Commerce for some precious resources. At that time, they can set prices at will, and the Li family will have to spend more spirit stones. So under the instruction of Li Zhirui, the Li family divided the territory near Taixishao. It was no longer the territory of the Li family. The reason was also easy to find, that is, the Li family was not strong enough to resist the powerful demons of Taixishao, so they could only create an isolation zone artificially. Under the tip-off of the Li family, Xuanfa Pavilion occupied this place early and tried every means to keep Nanya Chamber of Commerce out. It was also because of the nearby Xuanfa Pavilion that the Nanya Chamber of Commerce had been selling spiritual objects and purchasing spiritual pills at very fair prices over the years. Chapter 550 No Regrets. Of course, the Nanya Chamber of Commerce saw through the Li family's little trick and mentioned this matter to them in person, hoping that the Li family could fulfill their promise. However, in order to get the price of high-grade spiritual objects and not be manipulated by the Nanya Chamber of Commerce, the Li family talked about this matter and never gave a direct answer. In the end, there was no choice but for the Nanya Chamber of Commerce to acquiesce in this matter. After all, the Li family is now the master of this land, and it is not easy to turn against them completely. Moreover, all other contracts were signed in black and white, but this matter was not marked, and it was only Li Zhirui's verbal promise. Li Zhirui also knew that doing so would offend the Nanya Chamber of Commerce. If he had to ask them for help in the future, he would definitely have to pay a greater price to persuade them. But he couldn't do it otherwise. Once he was manipulated by the Nanya Chamber of Commerce and then controlled the Li family's economy, would the Li family still be the Li family at that time? What's the difference between this and being a vassal of the Nanya Chamber of Commerce? Li Zhirui stayed in the alchemy room for more than a month. In addition to daily practice in restoring mana, he spent the rest of his time refining elixirs. For him now, no matter it is the azure sky pill, the red sun pill, or the self-created cloud pill, because they have been refined many times, the difficulty is not great. As long as he is serious, he will not fail. It is just a matter of the number of pills. Congeal. As the last spell was cast, a strong pill fragrance suddenly filled the furnace. When he opened it, he saw 6 round pills floating in the spiritual water. The success rate of the pill has also increased, from 1 or 2 pills at the beginning to 6 pills now. It can be said to be a huge improvement. He specially kept the 2 best quality pills, and put the other 4 pills into the jade bottle, just enough to make up a bottle with the previously refined pills. Li Zhirui took a break and was about to continue refining the pill, but he found several communication talismans posted outside the door. This made him feel very strange, because ordinary trivial matters would not come to him. If it was an important matter, he would directly ring the awakening bell at the door, and it would be impossible to use the inefficient communication talisman. He reached out to take the talisman and activated it with his magic power. A familiar voice that he hadn't heard for many years came out of the talisman. Zhirui, I'm out of retreat. Sorry to have kept you waiting. Are you still refining the elixir? Zhu Fang said you were going to hold the Yuanying ceremony for me. You're not here, so we can't make decisions on our own. I'm leading the clansmen to rearrange the mountain protection formation. By then, this family will have a real 4th level formation. The remaining talismans all had similar contents, urging Li Zhirui to come out of retreat quickly, and their words were full of impatience and anticipation of seeing each other again. After listening, Li Zhirui stood up suddenly and walked out with big strides. As it turned out, Zhang Fengwu was not at home. She was outside at this time, leading the clansmen to determine the position of the formation flags and try to activate the power of the formation to the maximum. Li Zhirui could only suppress his urgency and wait anxiously for Zhang Fengwu to come back. At the same time, Zhang Fengwu was leading a group of array masters, running around the clan land, placing the array flags that had been refined long ago, and then a very complex array pattern. Although it was upgraded from the original array, the difficulty would not be too low, so even the simplest array pattern, Zhang Fengwu would personally check it to ensure that it was foolproof. After everyone had placed the array pattern and array flags, Zhang Fengwu confirmed again and again that there was no problem, and then flew into the air with the array disk, and the vast mana in his body poured out. The huge mana instantly connected the array patterns, and various spiritual lights flashed in the clan land, which looked extremely beautiful. 100 miles thick earth and water array. Zhang Fengwu's clear and loud voice resounded throughout the clan land. It's done. The moment Li Zhirui noticed a movement, he looked up at the sky, and then determined Zhang Fengwu's position through the fluctuation of mana. Did it succeed? When the spiritual light rose, turning the huge clan land upside down and protecting it, Li Zhirui knew the answer. Not long after, Zhang Fengwu came back. When she saw Li Zhirui standing in the courtyard, she was slightly startled, ran forward, hugged Li Zhirui, and said with some complaints, "You finally came out. How dare you say that to me? You have been in seclusion for a year or two," Li Zhirui joked. "I was comprehending the formation, and refining the formation flags and formation plates." At the end, Zhang Fengwu felt a little embarrassed. "No wonder you started to arrange the formation right after you came out of seclusion." "That's why." Li Zhirui looked enlightened and said softly, "Thank you for your hard work." Zhang Fengwu said a little suddenly, "Let me tell you why the power of the thunder tribulation has become so strong. Okay, at the beginning, I was not a casual cultivator, but was born into a small foundation-building family. My family members loved me very much." Zhang Fengwu finished her experience with a calm expression. It can be seen that she did not regret causing the deaths of many mortals because of revenge, causing a lot of karma, and causing herself to almost die in the thunder tribulation. After listening to this, Li Zhirui hugged the man tightly in his arms and said, "Everything is over. You have also avenged your family." "Yes, we haven't had sex for more than 10 years, right?" After saying that, he didn't care about Zhang Fengwu's reaction and directly carried the man into the room. For a while, the bed was entangled and the red waves rolled. "The invitation of the Li family has been delivered." All the forces near the Li family received the invitation sent by the Li family, including the Shuling sect, the Wuya sect, and the Zuanbing sect. And those Jiandan forces who switched from the Shenlai mountain sect to the Li family received special invitations, and the date on them was 1 day earlier than other forces. I heard that the second Yuanying was born in the Li family before, but after a year or two, I haven't seen this one show up. They thought it was a rumor, directed and acted by the Li family to intimidate these dishonest forces, so they still did their own thing and didn't take the Li family to heart. But now it seems that this matter is true. Otherwise, it would be impossible to send them invitations in a big way so that everyone knows about it. The Li family is really calculating. They set up a maze to make us confused about the truth of the matter, so as to attract some disobedient forces, but in fact, the Li family did not do such a thing, nor did they have such an idea. It was completely made up by their own minds. Then what level of gift should we send, in this situation? Unless they want to abandon the mountain gate, they can only go to Banyan Island for the banquet. Bring out the best spiritual objects. I hope that the Li family will forgive the past for the sake of the gift. Those forces that had previously pretended to obey but secretly disobeyed all wanted to apologize to the Li family. However, the Shuling sect and Wuya sect, two conflicting forces, now came together to discuss Zhang Fengwu's Yuanying ceremony. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.